Right. Last day of Frozen Ord, then we're gonna move on. They're just farming materials for the new builds. I guess the power of the build has been proven by multiple people at this point, and I just wanna check if there's actually builds without Lightning Spear, which are fun. So even then, obviously just not gonna be like even remotely S tier. They're probably just gonna be like A or B tier. I'm still gonna be exploring the new builds. I'm kind of like done with this. But it's a cool build, and I guess we will find other builds which can, without any problems, at least farm tier 7s. Maybe they cannot farm tier 8s, but, you know, farming tier 7s should be fine at this point. Or like a non-lightning spear build. And also, I mean, we gotta take into account, maybe it's not gonna be nerfed mid-season, but it's gonna be nerfed at some point, right? So, still wanna try out the other stuff anyway. Probably doesn't even matter so much, because in the expansion probably this is gonna change anyway, but who knows. Maybe there's not gonna be so many new builds in the expansion anyway. And I have like the suspicion that the expansion is gonna be good, but my suspicion is that there's not gonna be like so game-breaking changes, other than maybe a stat squish and maybe a new skill or something like that. A couple of new Paragon boards, but you know, right now Paragon boards are just stat sticks, and I don't think it's gonna change in a major way. So probably the builds we are trying out now will probably still be valid for the expansion. So yeah. Probably I'm just gonna farm like 10k Nice Iron or something like that. The problem is I cannot masterwork stuff. So I have to farm basically items to destroy them, to get the materials to reset masterworks, which I find like extremely depressing. Like the bottleneck with the materials you reach so goddamn fast. Like you basically have to complete like somewhere around 2 tier 8 Infernal Hordes with like 700-ish to fill 4 stash tabs with legendary items. Then if you salvage 4 stash tabs of legendary items, you can do roughly like 20 rerolls on masterworking. Maybe not even 20. It's like 25 a roll. And so it's 100 rolls, it's 100 materials per, just from rank 1. So just to go to 4 out of 12, it's 100. So I'm still trying to figure this out, but it seems like, so I want to make a guide on this, but so Etheric Mass you don't want to do. You want to do either like Aether Fiends or Hellborn. The Etheric Mass is just, you know, it's just gonna spawn, you kill it one time and that's it. The Aether Fiends or Aether Fiends, they spawn randomly, so buffing the Aether Fiends is okay, or Aether, the Aether Fiends. Buffing the Eternal, like the masses, is not recommended. So if you cannot get Hellborn and if you cannot get extra elite spawns or whatever, then at least try to get the Aether Fiends. Aether Fiends. I'll get that right at some point. Yeah, this is Fists of Fate. And this just looks cool, but it's not really so much better, I have to say. It's great in bosses, though. It's better in bosses, I feel like. But I guess other than the visuals, it's not a major improvement. I'm not playing a double roll of extra frozen orbs right now. I'm just playing a single roll. So yeah, this one here. These are okay. It's more relaxed because you don't have to cast frozen orbs. So you basically just hold lightning spear in this. So that's the advantage of this. And you have ice blades on your bar, so you just have to cast ice blades like once every 2 seconds or so. And besides that, you basically just have to hold lightning spear. So it's relatively relaxed actually. And it looks cool, like it looks really cool. You can even get more frozen orbs if you want, but so right now I have 50-50 tempers on my weapon. I have 1 temper with lightning spear and 1 temper with frozen orbs. So you can get a lot more frozen orbs if you switch those, but I feel like the 50-50 temper is working best for me. So you have like 50% chance to get the extra lightning spear and also roughly 60% chance for an extra frozen orb, somewhere around that. So, this one here I haven't checked yet. So, I don't know what exactly it does. I mean, I know there's elites, like a type spawning elites, which basically never happens. But I don't know if it really affects something else. Like, I don't know if it affects the other fiends or not. It might actually. So it might actually be relatively high on the tier list, like the spawn chance for elites doubled. But it's a little hard to figure that out, honestly. But that is a pretty rare one. Like, you really don't see this a lot. And, I mean, it looks like there's a lot of these other fiends spawning right now. Maybe this is the better meta. Don't go for Hellborns, go for other fiends. I'm gonna check this run. I'm just gonna bump Ether Fiends and see where I end up. Because, you know, commonly people are just pushing Hellborns. But it seems like if you have the spawn for elites, you might be pretty good with like a lot of Ether Fiends as well. Sure. I'm gonna try it. So there's another Ether Fiend. But because if it really, like, the spawns for elites would really just be the elites, which also have, like, the elite icon on the map, that wouldn't make much sense. Because this is really spawning, like, a crap ton of Ether Fiends. So it's definitely counting for Ether Fiends, I guess. They also spawn, like, in packs of 2. So I guess this is not too bad. I don't think it's better than Hellborn, though. But maybe a combination. But in the end, like, the other fiends are definitely much better than the ethereal masses or whatever they're called. And, like, the spires are the worst anyway. Right, Exalted. Go for Exalted. Usually I would do the Hellborn, but I'm trying something here. These are definitely spawning all over the place. But I don't think it gives more other than the Hellborns. It's a little hard to tell at this point. I mean, 300 is not so terrible at wave 7. Depending on what perks you get, you might end up at like 700 or 800 with that. Okay. Right now I have to get Hellborn. But I don't think Hellborns count as elites for like the double the chance of spawning. I know somebody in my chat said that, but I don't think that is the case. I think elites are the other fiends which are randomly spawning. And you can also spawn like real elites, but those are like super rare. Like you barely see them once every like third run or so. It almost never happens that these actual elites spawn. But this is spawning a good amount of them at least. This is probably going to be like a 700 run. And given the fact that I just got Hellborn in wave 7, that's actually not too bad. Oh, we get nothing? Let's see. So I really don't think it affects the Hellborn spawn rate. Maybe it does though. Like super hard to figure out. What's the point? Yes, there's a point investing in attack speed. It just makes your gameplay so much more fluent. Like, of course you can go 200 stuff and, you know, you go for mass burst damage. But in Infernal Hordes, that's just overkill damage and it's just gonna make you much slower. And the faster you can clear the events, the faster the next events can spawn. So, after every spell you have an animation cooldown, and the slower your attack speed, the slower this cooldown runs. So after a teleport, you need a certain amount of time before you can teleport again, and attack speed definitely helps with getting you way faster reaction time. That's why I don't want to play two-hander. It's gonna do more burst damage. Like, don't get me wrong, that's a fact. That's not what I'm looking for. Burst damage I only really need if I want to go push pit. Like, the damage for Infernal Hordes is just gonna be fine. Like, I have enough damage for Infernal Hordes. I don't need to build any kind of overkill. I just wanna, you know, have the fastest mobility here, basically. That's definitely faster the more attack speed you have. And yes, in this version I don't play Starless, guys. There's a build planner in the description. So... like, if you have Invigorating buff, like, these bosses also, they go down, like, insanely fast. Okay, this is too ranged. So the The most important thing is if you can kind of get at least 2 of them grouped, it gets much, much easier. But usually they refuse to if they are all ranged, so you just gotta screw it. But if you look at the conjuration count now, we will go upwards of like 50 very soon. Right, 45, 46. And this is not a training dummy scenario, right? So if I had all these 3 bosses like perfectly stacked on top of each other, and I could go with what's it called? Overflowing energy. And the whole, you know, 5 mobs hitting the dummies. You know, you get much more, but in a real scenario, you don't really get so many. Always depends a little bit on these bosses. Definitely doesn't have the highest boss damage. So what I should do is probably, to be efficient, you just want to fill your inventory at least once with these, so you can salvage a full inventory after every run. I guess that's the most efficient compromise you can do there. You get the materials you need. But overall, this version is pretty relaxed, I would say. The first stat, critical strike chance and critical strike damage. So if you want to really max out your damage potential, it's definitely going to be critical strike damage. I dropped a significant amount of critical strike damage. By putting on Fists of Fate, you drop like 250% upwards of critical strike damage. And I also don't have critical strike damage on my ring, I have crit chance, so like the way I made this build is definitely not on the top end of the damage. I specifically made this for farming Infernal Hordes most efficiently. I will make one update for this variant, but it's basically the last day I'm gonna be streaming this build. That's what I mean by that. Basically, I'm just gathering materials to build new builds. And all the other builds are not going to be so strong. I already know that. So my farming goal is going to be basically tier 7 Infernal Hordes, maybe tier 8 if the build works good. But that's pretty much going to be the ceiling of other sword builds, I would say. I guess Fireball can do tier 8 alright. But this build is definitely, like, as soon as you add Lightning Spear, it's a whole other level. And I know there's a lot of build guides around there, like, you know, Chain Lightning build, and Dariel's build, whatever build, XYZ, and they all just use Lightning Spear and like a random spell. And I'm not really interested in that, because you know what? It's proven that Lightning Spear is doing all the damage. So, just don't call it a Chain Lightning build. I mean, you can make a Chain Lightning build, but you know, what's the point putting all into crit damage and then going for Lightning Spear? You might as well just build a good like a good Lightning Spear build instead of a, you know, bad chain lightning build which gets enough damage from lightning spear to be able to clear content. Like, I don't really see the point in that. Yeah, the build guide, like the planner, is in the stream description with the Fist of Fate. But again, it's not super strong, so I don't even think it's stronger than the old version. But it's more relaxed. It's less button spammy. Most of the time I really just use teleport and lightning spear, and I just press like ice blades once in a while. No, that's not gonna be a crackling energy build ever. That shit doesn't work. What? Okay. That was interesting. Don't even know what killed me. Okay, I had full barrier and I have like 200% damage reduction. You definitely get less damage in the lucky hit version. The frozen orbs just don't do as high damage. So with the lucky hit version, you basically, yes, you get more lightning spears because you get, you know, more frozen orbs exploding, but you take away the crit damage from the lightning spear, and that's actually pretty significant. The difference there, not having the crit damage on your gloves, it really matters a whole lot. But it's just more fluent and more relaxed to play, but the damage is definitely lower. But again, in Infernal Hordes, you don't really need to go for peak damage. Like, if I had the fastest build, which might be, you know, a Spark, Lightning Spear build maybe, or something like that, and it would be doing enough damage to clear the content, I wouldn't need to build, like, for more damage, because this is basically farming, so you want to have the most relaxed build, which can clear the content. You don't need a gazillion of overkill damage. If this would be pit pushing, there would be something different, but this is really just for Infernal Hordes farming. But I needed the Fist of Fate anyway for other builds, so it's kind of in line with what I want to do anyway. I spent like a good amount of gold for those, and I didn't even like remotely have perfect ones. But the ones I have are pretty good. I have a greater FX attack speed and greater FX lucky hit chance. This also has like permanent unstable currents without Orange Herald. So it has lucky hit on the pants basically. It's another chunk of damage which is missing against the, you know, playing T-balls, for example. But the damage is good enough. The Ether Fiends take a little bit too long, like the ones which spawns from those blobs. But I guess that's okay. Okay, what? As I said, boss damage is not very good in this build. I mean, it depends what we're talking about boss damage, right? What kind of boss are you talking about? If you want to kill a 130 pit boss, you know what? It's going to take you 3 minutes. If you want to kill Tormented Duriel, you know what? It's going to take you 5 seconds. So maybe another build can do it in 2 seconds, but honestly, who cares? So for regular bosses, like, this doesn't matter at all. Just if you want to go, this is not a pit pushing build. For everything, this build does absolutely fine. Yeah, the council is alright. I also don't see like the issues needing, you know, 30 seconds or 45 seconds for the council. Like in the end, you know, it's important that you get the ether from the first part of the event. The council is just, yeah, you gotta kill it. But if you're like slow as fuck in the first stage and you don't get the ether you want, then, you know, it doesn't really help you so much if you get the council faster. Oh, this is like so stupid. Well, if you have all the Ubers, maybe you don't have enough attack speed. Or you're not pressing enough lightning spears, or maybe your winter glass has a 0.1 second roll on conjurations. So if your winter glass has a 0.1 second roll on cooldown reduction, it's gonna be horrible. I'm doing great. How do you? How are you doing? I'm happy that this is the last day of Frozen Orb. 0.5, so you shouldn't have any issues. Are you pressing your lightning spears? Do you have enough cooldown reduction? How much cooldown reduction do you have? I'm using attack speed elixir. That is absolutely fine. That's better than what I have, honestly. So, I don't know, you should be having absolutely no issues with keeping conjurations up. So, I assume you gotta build something wrong. Maybe you don't have the frozen orbit aspect on or something like that. I just like this want and focus. It just gives you so much more reaction time. I just feel like it plays better. I don't know. I mean, I did it with the stuff. I can show you with the same thing with the stuff after this. And you can see how it goes. And it does significantly more damage. What do we want? Yeah, I cannot tell you about PlayStation. Sorry, there might be just stuff which is not working. Maybe you cannot hold the buttons. They don't cast fast enough? I don't know. But why do you have a button for Ice Blades and Lightning Spear? Are you not casting Frozen Orb? Why? Because I have faster clear speed in this part. That is the point. And also, Frozen Orb doesn't have bad, like worse boss damage. You really don't sacrifice so much damage because you still have the Lightning Spear damage. You just get the Frozen Orb damage on top of it. And again, it has a little bit less boss damage, but it's much better at clearing all these non-elite pack. Like the Frozen Orbs just target way better than the Lightning Spears. And they reach their target faster, they instantly freeze and everything, so it just feels more fluent, the gameplay. It is not by the raw numbers. No, I never watch Rage Gaming. That is just clickbait. Like, all the builds he does are absolutely terrible and just copied from someone, so I would not recommend watch any single video of this Rage Gaming thing. It's just pure clickbait. Yeah, exactly. The builds are usually like completely poorly crafted. Like there's most of the time like like super big mistakes in the builds, like wrong aspects, stuff like that. Paragon boards which do not make any sense. Like these builds are just bad. I would not recommend following any of those. Yeah, of course it's the billion damage Sorc OP build. Because it's just about how the search algorithm from YouTube works. Like that's the only point. I mean, max roll builds are just basic builds. I don't think they are bad, but you know, they don't have like a deep deep understanding in the build. I mean, they probably even have a deep understanding in the build, but you know, the most of these builds are created before the season even launches, then you know, updated, but not really played a lot, right? They don't play the builds and you know, keep evolving them. They just basically theory craft them and then you know, just update them. And you know, the basics of those builds are good, like the mechanics and the explanations, what skills you use and stuff like that. So from that standpoint, but they're not very highly played build, right? There's not like, so those are like paid creators, right? So that the guy is not sitting there 15 hours a day playing a build and then you know, making a build guide. He's sitting there 2 hours playing and making a build guide. Which, but the 2 hour build guide is still gonna be way better than the Rage Gaming one. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the boss damage is not that horrible. But I hate this boss fight. Like, I just hate that you always have, like, at least one, most of the time two, which are running away from you. That's really, really annoying. There's like, I have early game versions of this build, which completely solve your mana issues. And you want, I have a video on my channel, which is called Frozen Orb FAQ or something like that. And there's a mana guide, how you fix your mana. And you can definitely use the lower version of this build guide. If you check the description of this stream, there's like 2 planner links. Well, actually, there's like 4 planner links, I guess. And there's one early game version, one mid game version, one Uber version, and then this lucky hit version, which is also like an Uber version, I guess. Yeah, I mean, of course, like Rogue is just one-shotting them, but it's a bugged interaction with the totem, right? But I mean, Sorc never had good boss damage, and Sorc probably will never have good boss damage, because Sorc just doesn't have any scaling mechanics for that. I don't think that's gonna change ever. No, the aspect of fortune is, you don't need to use that. I mean, you don't have to play a wand and offhand, right? This build works also. It works completely okay with 200 stuff as well. You just need high cooldown reduction. So the thing with the 200 weapon is, if you don't have high cooldown reduction, it's not gonna be so good, right? So let me just, if I put on my 200 weapon here, This is not the best one. I don't have greater affixes on it, but you know, for the sake. By the way, I don't have maxed aspect of lightning spear. I'm like cannot find the max aspect. It's like ridiculous. But if I just put this on, and now you will see I will be a good chunk slower, but it's still gonna work just fine. The damage is, well, I would say like 70% of the damage is coming from Lightning Spear. And the other 30% maybe from the Frozen Orbs. So maybe I should... I probably have the wrong tempo on this stuff, by the way. But as you can see, like this, it takes a longer while until you are like up and running. But once you're up and running and you just hold Lightning Spear, it's pretty similar to the other variant. But just the movement overall, like the attack animations, you know, teleporting away, is just so much slower. But this is still gonna shred everything, right? So... I just don't... I just like the other variant better, even though this has definitely much higher damage. But this, you also probably don't want to play this with Fists of Fate, right? So I would... I should change my gloves with this build, because it doesn't really make sense to play this with Fists of Fate. I know it has the higher boss damage, but again, it doesn't matter. I mean, in this build, really, it's not such a huge difference, other than, you know, you just have higher damage. Higher damage, slower movement, basically. That's what it comes down to. And so the damage is definitely much higher than the amount of movement you lose. But, yeah. I guess it's just a thing of personal preference. If you want to push Pit, like the stuff version is definitely better. Because you just get way more damage out of Lightning Spear than out of the extra Frozen Orbs. But this is just slower overall. Unless you really need the overkill damage, which I don't need. But this one here you can definitely scale to the moon if you want. And the Wand and Focus one doesn't really scale so good because you just get way less damage out of the Lightning Spears. Yes. So the Frozen Orb extra... I didn't pay attention to the Hellfire. So the extra projectiles on Frozen Orb, they basically work on everything. So they work on the lucky hit cast, they work on your own casts. And also every projectile can trigger the Frozen Orb enchantment. So if you have Frozen Orb enchantment, basically you can cast up to 4 Frozen Orbs with one cast. Actually, I don't know which way around it is, if the extra projectile can trigger the Frozen Orb enchantment or the Frozen Orb enchantment triggers the extra projectile, but I think the Frozen Orb enchantment has the extra projectile chance and not the other way around. But in the end comes down to the same thing. They synergize very good. I don't know yet. Probably gonna do... I want to try Chain Lightning if I can get this working. So Chain Lightning without Lightning Spear. And then I wanted to try damage over time build. I want to do Hydra and Dariels build. But I don't have Andariels yet, so I don't know if I want to... So, I'm probably going to create a new character. I'm just going to keep this one here for farming, because I'm really too lazy to change builds around. And then I'm going to generate a new character, so I can get 1 spark from the seasonal quest line. And I think I have 3 Uber uniques I don't need, I can salvage. Then I can get Andariels. That's probably my plan there. I don't have this in this build anymore. Is it still in the planner? Didn't I take it out? So I definitely don't have it in this build. So I removed it here. Maybe it's wrong in the planner. This is like the worst run ever. Your sword can scale and is poison damage. It's just a matter of how you do it. So you don't want to scale the poison damage to infinity. You want to scale your lucky hit to infinity. And again, I want to play it with Hydra. So if you have like 3, whatever it is, 14-headed Hydras, and then you scale the damage over time they do basically, so you scale the burn damage. And then you use the lucky hit from the Hydras and maybe, for example, Spark to just trigger Andariels. I think it scales pretty well. It doesn't scale to the amount of lightning spear damage, but that's just overtuned at this point. So I think it scales alright. Like, the poison damage scaling is not like... You know, it doesn't scale like crit damage, obviously, but you can still scale it if you scale damage over time. No, I don't farm anything anymore. I just trade at this point. I haven't been in Helltide for like a week, and I will probably never go back into Helltide for the rest of the season. Other than the new character I'm going to be leveling. So I have 2, so I have 1 for testing builds and 1 for farming. But I'm not going to farm anything anymore at this stage. I'm just going to play Infernal Hordes, sell the Stygian Stones, sell the items I find. So I feel like at a certain point, target farming stuff is not beneficial anymore. If you want to do trading, obviously. If you don't want to do trading, you pretty much... So the problem is, if you don't want to do trading in an ARPG and it doesn't have any kind of solo self-found mechanic where you can benefit from, or any like in-depth crafting system, you're gonna have a terrible time. That's why you're kind of forced to trading. Why you say I'm not gonna enjoy Chain Lightning? Not looking for the max potential. I'm just looking for making a working build. And then I want to see how far it actually goes. So I just want to test how much resource generation I can get. How many Chain Lightnings at the same time I can sustain. And then... So you gotta understand. About 95% of the player base do not even reach level 90. So if you're level 80 or level 90 and you do like Infernal Hordes tier 5 or tier 4 with a Chain Lightning build, you're probably gonna have a great time. Are you gonna do Infernal Hordes tier 8 like this with a Chain Lightning build? Most likely not. You're not gonna do it. Well, unless you know, choose Lightning Spear and call it a Chain Lightning build, but for reality it's just being a Lightning Spear build. But it's not like this. Most of the players are not super high-end players. Most of the players just want to enjoy a cool build. And it doesn't really have to peak out at the highest level of contents. It can still be a legitimate build. And you know, Blizzard has still the option then to keep buffing it. And you know, at some point it might be good enough. But I don't think Chain Lightning has been explored very far by most players, because everybody basically, you know, just tested it for like a couple of minutes, maybe hours, and then said, ah, this is not as good as Lightning Spear, I'm calling it a day. So if that's your... If you're looking for a build which is as good as Lightning Spear, you know, you might as well uninstall the game, because you're not gonna find it. So... Same with Blizzard. Like, if you want to make a Blizzard build right now, you know what? It's gonna be horrible compared to Frozen Orb or Lightning Spear or Fireball. Because the Blue Rose is just bugged, as it seems. You dropped a 4, Greater Affix, Fist of Fate with 200%. Does that mean they are bad? No, it's not bad. Probably still gonna worth like 10 billion gold or something like that. Maybe even 15 billion gold. If it had 300%, it would be worth like 100 billion gold, so... a 200% Fist of Fate basically means you're not gonna get any damage bonus out of the item, but you're still gonna get the synergies, the lucky hit, and everything. So mine has like a 240% or something like that. So just for comparison, like these here, these were 6 million gold, 6 billion gold. And they have 265, so in reality it's like a 30% damage buff on them. And they have a greater FX attack speed, and they have the decent critical strike chance roll. So these are not terrible at all. But you can get much, much better ones, but they are gonna be crazy expensive. I mean, obviously you can play Rayman, but it's gonna make you squishy and you're gonna die all the time. I mean, I even can get one-shot with using Tyrael, so I don't know if I would want to use Rayman in this kind of content. Also, like, it doesn't seem to be any beneficial to group the mobs here at all. Like, I mean, since your Frozen Orbs and your Lightning Spears are self-targeting anyway, like, why would I even want to play Rayman to group them? Don't really see so much of a point in that. I mean, I like that you can play tanky sword now, at least. So, I mean, I can do level 130 pit bosses and, you know, tank them. I really like that new addition, and I actually put extra points in my Paragon for survivability. I'm, like, sacrificing one ward even to, you know, get the life nodes and the damage reduction nodes, because I don't need the burst damage in this content. I rather go for a little bit more defensive here. Yeah, of course you need to know how to dodge the one-shots, but you know what? I'm like, you get distracted and you die. Like, the entire screen is full of goddamn Frozen Orb. Don't tell me you can avoid every one-shot. Like, if you play Infernal Hordes tier 8 with Raiment of the Infinite and you tell me you never get one shot, you know what? I don't believe you. But again, I'm usually like more of a relaxed player. Like if there would be a sword build where I could do life leech and, you know, just face tank stuff, you know, I would much rather play that build. Because I don't want to dodge one-shot mechanics. That's fucking annoying. Well, if you're streaming, you're watching at the chat. That is basically, you know, whenever I get hit by like a meteor, I'm probably watching at the chat. So if I had like Raiment of the Infinite, I would just die every single time I get hit by a meteor. So, I mean, I would be dead all the goddamn time, honestly. This is like the worst run I ever had, probably. Isn't it casting? Oh no. So see, if they are grouped, the damage is definitely better with the two-handed stuff. Because the lightning spears just do more damage than the frozen orbs. If they're not grouped, I feel like it's like roughly the same. Like, don't compare to last run, because I had Invigorate buff there, which gives a significant damage boost. So, I mean, this is definitely much higher than with the Wand and Focus. And I completely have the wrong optimizations for this. Because Fists of Fate with this build would be is stupid if you're using a two-handed weapon. If you use a two-handed weapon, you want to skill your crit damage on your gloves. So the other fiends, like the Desecrators, they're gonna one-shot you no matter how many defenses you have. But the fire, like they rain around them, you're gonna survive that. Same with the if you have the Hellfire Rain, you're not gonna survive it with Raymond, but you're gonna survive one or two of those hits if you have like damage reduction and max resistances. Right now I only have like 800% or so. It's like pretty bad. Like I have 800. So it's really not that good. Like you could have crit damage on your ring. Again, I don't have any masterwork, right? I didn't remasterwork my gear because I don't see a point in doing minimaxing this, because I don't need the power at all. But you want to have a gloves. If the gloves don't have crit damage, you know, you're just going to be falling behind. And again, this one is decently masterworked on crit damage. This one doesn't have a single crit on crit damage. So I really didn't min-max this at all. Right, so if you really min-max your rolls there, you're probably gonna get somewhere around... If you would wear the Fist of Fate, you could probably get somewhere around 1100. But that's not what I'm looking for at this point. What's the best way to farm greater FX items? I mean, you can farm Infernal Hordes and just open the item chest. It actually gives a lot of greater FX items. But besides that, it's probably still Helltide. But I don't want to play Helltide anymore. So I just feel like I mean, it's just my personal preference. I don't like the 200 one. Well, not 1900. You have to look at the other number. The 1900 is not the real number. You have to look at... So if you're looking at crit damage, right, you don't look at this number here. This is wrong. You look at the number. You have this stat from items and Paragon. That number you want to look at. You don't want to look at the number in the tooltip. That is not correct. That's increased by 50%. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty good, actually. Like, 1250 is decent. You can probably get somewhere around 1500 if you have everything perfect. Maybe you can get 1600 if you have really everything perfect. But 1250 is... You're gonna melt tier 8s with that. So if you want to focus on lightning spear damage with 1250 crit damage, they're just gonna obliterate everything. I mean, you gotta... If you play a two-hander, right, and you have 1250, you basically take the... What is it? I think it's 4.5k base damage on the lightning spear aspect. And then you multiply it with that 12.5. Right, so you would be like somewhere around 60k base damage for the lightning spear. explosion, so that's more than a regular skill. Like, for example, if you look at a frozen orb, this does without buffs. So this does 50k, right? So that is actually pretty strong. Yeah, I did tier 8. I honestly, I did my first tier 8 with 8 out of 12 masterwork and level 15 glyphs. Without any uber uniques. And it was absolute... And I did it with wand and focus, by the way, not with two end. And with the frozen orb build, where I was actually self-casting frozen orbs, I could do it without... Well, I mean, it wasn't that fast. I mean, I uploaded it somewhere. I think I did it on day 2 or something like that. So it absolutely works without uber uniques. Greater affix on my amulet is on Conjuration Mastery. Conjuration Mastery is definitely the best greater affix. You don't need the greater affix on the cooldown reduction. Greater affix Conjuration Mastery is definitely the best. No, I'm not using Starless. I'm not spending mana at this point. So I'm just using Lightning Spear and Ice Blade, so I cannot use Starless. Oh, double. Yeah, Uber bosses take like 4 seconds with this build. I think if you watch the video of my Uber build guide for this, I think I have in the first 15 seconds, I have the kills for like the Uber bosses and Uber Lilith, and I think they take like 3 or 4 seconds. So with this, probably roughly the same. Always depends a little bit on your start, how fast your conjurations ramp up. But you're not gonna take more than a couple of seconds to kill them, really. This is gonna be a good run. So if the first 2 get extra event spawns, and now if I get Hellborns, I will be like... This can be like a 1000+ run. No, casting Ice Blast just is for cooldown reduction. I mean, it slightly increases your DPS because it gives you 3 extra conjuration stacks. But that's really irrelevant. It's more like it's further decreasing your cooldowns. Especially unstable currents cooldowns. And also teleport cooldown, stuff like that. So that's basically what you use Ice Blades for. Like, if you get these events with the extra spawn, that's, like, nuts. Like, if you get them early... I mean, even these lower events give, like, a good amount of ether. But you want to have Hellborns, ideally. Cannot manage tier 4, you're probably very, very far away from having good gear or anything. Ugh, this is bad. Yeah, it's on Tormented bosses. Tormented bosses with this build really take 4 seconds or something like that. So imagine I had Hellborn in this run. Fortunately, I don't. So I'm basically just having to kill all these events, and these events literally do nothing. Like these Serric Mass or whatever, they're just completely useless. So really, just Hellborn is what counts. Yeah, it can work without Fist of Fate. You just need a decent amount of lucky hit for that, or and a good rolled Winterglass. But I mean, with Fist of Fate, it definitely works better. But it works without. It just takes a little bit longer to ramp up, so you need a critical mass of Lightning Spears out before your cooldown on Lightning Spear basically goes to almost 0. And the less lucky hit you have, the longer it takes to ramp up. But once it's ramped up, it just works without Fist of Fate as well. But you can always put just Frozen Orb on your bar and just, you know, start casting Frozen Orbs in the beginning and then later just keep casting Lightning Spears. It just works fine. Yeah, 0.1 Winterglass is not gonna work. So if you have a 0.1 Winterglass, you just want to cast Frozen Orbs the normal way. So just use my build guide and cast the Frozen Orbs. With the 0.1 Winterglass, you're not gonna get these Lightning Spear cooldowns down. But I would just recommend buy like one on. So if you go on Diablo.trade and you buy like a 0.3 seconds with just 3 Conjuration Mastery, you know, you're gonna get it for like 100k or something like that. It's gonna be very, very cheap. As long as you don't look for +3 seconds and +4 Conjuration Mastery, it's super cheap to pick these up. So highly recommend just buying one. I always recommend buying like non-perfect gear. It's very cheap and it's nowhere compared to self-farming it. And you can basically kickstart any gear because, you know, if you have one less rank on Conjuration Mastery, it's, you know, yeah, you're gonna do like 7% less damage or something like that, or maybe 10% less damage. So it's very, very irrelevant. And if you want to have a +4 0.3 seconds Winterglass, you're basically gonna pay 2 to 3 billion gold already. So yeah, that sucked. This run is scuffed anyway. It started so good, but then it just got shit. But something is weird in this run. I don't know where all these electro guys come from. I mean, 0.2 seconds is alright. I honestly have a +2 seconds Winterglass myself, so I basically have this, and it's only a +2. I happen to triple crit it. I didn't even want to triple crit it. I wanted to double crit it, actually. And because 0.5 will be alright. So if you're fully masterwork, everything above 0.5 is going to be completely alright. Even 0.4 is going to be good. Yeah, but Frozen Orb, definitely. If you're self-casting the Frozen Orb, that's going to work with any gear, basically. If you really want to have this 0-second Lightning Spear cooldown, that's going to require decent gear. But yeah, you definitely need decent gear and some breakpoints instead to get this 0 second lightning spear cooldown, basically. But you can always just self-cast Frozen Orbs, honestly. I mean, I got through all the content. I had I could farm tier 101. I did the tier 8 Infernal Hordes, no problem. All with 8 out of 12 gear, with level 15 glyphs. And with not a perfect Winter Glass, and just by self-casting the Frozen Orbs with Wanted Focus and decent attack speed. And you basically just hold Frozen Orb and you just spam your Lightning Spear whenever it comes up. And you know what? Your Lightning Spear, you can only spam it like every second or so. But you know what? That's completely alright. It's still... You're still gonna destroy everything. So it's really absolutely not a requirement to go into the high tier build. I'm not gonna answer the question if this build is better. Sorry, but that question makes no sense. Anybody telling you a build is better than another one? Probably talking bullshit. It's like going into like a jewelry shop and you're saying how much does a ring cost, right? Same story. Or like going to McDonald's and say how much does the burger cost? Well, you might as well like say which one. So it's really, it always depends on like where you're at, your gear, your time investment, what build is right for you. There's no best build. Yeah, if it's sacred. Is it? Can't you hold the button on console? Look, if they're grouped, they go down like in seconds, right? I use attack speed potion. This run was horrible. This run had like one of the best starts with like 2 times extra elite spawns, and then I got nothing like for 8 waves. So if you can hold a button, why wouldn't it cast the lightning spears? I mean, I never played on console, but I'm actually looking to buy an Xbox so I can just, you know, relax farm on the weekend, the couch. At least I want to try it, how it works. I guess if you have the right build. I feel like this build should be pretty good on console because everything is targeting, auto-targeting, right? I'm just holding down Lightning Spear, really. I'm not doing Ice Blades so much. Maybe it looks like it, but I'm not casting Ice Blades all that much. But sometimes I cast them too much, obviously. Still upgrading aspects in my codex. It's really just nuts. Do I have everything correct here, by the way? All the links are in the description of the stream. But yeah, basically, I'm always holding Lightning Spear. It's kind of silly, like the whole cooldown story on Lightning Spear. Wonder if they intended this. They must have intended this. Also wanted to test if I really need Firebolt enchantment. I mean, during the fight, it's not even that crazy because you kind of run out of mobs all the time. In a boss fight, you get like upwards of 50 lightning spears, and the cooldown gets really low. I also tried with overwhelming currents to like kind of make any bank of that, but it didn't really feel any good. Even though it's like it's one of the fastest lightning skills to cast, actually. I don't know the attack speed frames on casting a lightning spear, but it goes pretty fast. I think they kind of understand the game, but I don't know. I don't think they tested well enough. That's absolutely true. I don't know how they tested, because, you know, literally every like streamer and content creator needs like 1 day to get like the first build to the absolute absurd maximum. And I don't know why they couldn't test it like this, because it's actually not that difficult to like push up a build in this game, right? This is very good, Hellborn. Haven't tested Ball Lightning yet. I feel like they nerfed Ball Lightning a little bit too much. The 20% attack speed. So if you look at the attack rate of Ball Lightning, like how often it ticks, that feels... I feel like it feels a little bit too low. I feel like they should have maybe lowered it to like 50%. But the 20%, it feels low. It's just for... Basically, it does nothing like the advanced Ball Lightning or whatever it's called. The 20% is barely noticeable at all. I feel like that should come up a little bit again. Maybe to 50. For this one, maybe, but I don't know yet. Maybe just a very short one. Because this is not so much different. You just push some different buttons. So I might just make a short one. This is like horrible. You mean Ball Lightning in Season 2? Because Season 3 was the garbage season where everything was stupid. Season 2 was where Ball Lightning was overpowered. Yeah, it was Season 2. It basically had infinite attack speed bonus with the this tick rate. If you get Hellborn early, your run is always going to be good. Never going to be horrible, even if you only get shit after that. So this one here is the absolute best one. Right? Surging Hellborn, this is the absolute best one you can get. I mean, you can definitely use the 0.8 seconds. You're probably gonna get a little bit more lightning spears out of it than I do. But yeah, I mean, you're gonna lose out on like 10-15% damage by not having Conjuration Mastery. So that's really just very, very high-end min-maxing, right? So having 2 ranks more in Conjuration Mastery is not gonna make you like push 10 tiers higher or whatever. This is really not so so drastic. Right? If you have 8 ranks and you go up to 10 ranks, it's a relative just a 20% damage increase. So if you're already doing like a gazillion overkill damage, you know, doing a 20% more overkill damage is not gonna matter at all. I would say it's more important that your build plays fluent than doing the absolute top end damage. So I would definitely not remaster work that amulet. Yeah, it's absolutely good. Wow. Another one? That's nuts. So now it should spawn 4 Hellborns. Yep. So there's 4 Hellborns and they each drop like 9 ever or something like that. Oh, and I'm just at round 6. This is gonna be good. It's gonna be like 1,000, probably, the run. If I get good perks, it might be even more. The best one I had was 1,280. And I saw like a video from Rob, somebody did 1,285. That's the highest one I saw until now. But yeah, there's a lot of RNG on this Infernal Hordes. Like really, the more Hellborn perks you get, the more ridiculous it gets. I'm probably looking at Chain Lightning next. But that's gonna be just a short. I'm just gonna test it. Make the guide and just go on. Because that's not gonna be a build I will be continuing to play. This is... I don't want any of these, unfortunately. I want to try... I will do all the classic builds, right? I will do Meteor, so I want to do Fireball, Meteor. I want to do Blizzard with Blue Rose. I just at least want to test it, how it goes. I want to do Chain Lightning. I want to do Charge Bolts. I would spend like the next couple of weeks just, you know, making all these builds. You know, checking how good they do in Infernal Hordes, how they play. Just make a little guide on it, and you know, with knowing none of them is going to be a high tier build. This is already the decision which is going to be the best Sorc build has already been done. Like nothing is going to come close to Lightning Spear, other than maybe something. I'm still not giving up hope on Andariel's poison damage with like Hydra lucky hit as a boss killer, but you know, that might just also be completely terrible. Oh, wow. I don't even know if I want to get another Hellborn or another Hordes. I think Hordes is better at this stage. You need, like, I would say you need above 50% cooldown reduction. Yeah, druids. What was the landslide? The storm slide druid. Isn't that the real deal there? This round was actually bad. Very little spawns. Junk. It's all junk. 15 is better than nothing. Come on, get me your hellborns. Yeah, they are. Yeah, this doesn't end up as good as I thought it would. Really got little hellborns. Yeah, it's already off this version. It's in the stream description at the very top. You don't want to pick gold in this, honestly. I don't even know how much it is. But you always want to pick the material chest, and then, you know, you can sell the Stygian stones on Diablo.trade, and you're gonna make way much more gold. And you're gonna get materials as well. So I wouldn't recommend picking the raw gold chest. And if you sell Stygian stones on Diablo.trade, they sell in like seconds. So you list them and it really just takes like 1 or 2 minutes until you have sold. So I highly recommend doing that. They are? They were on 30 million yesterday. But I mean, still with 20, you're still gonna get more, honestly. But yeah, maybe stones are gonna be worth it at some point eventually, right? Because there's just so many. And the bottleneck becomes the other boss materials. Okay, so we're not gonna get 1,000, but we're gonna get like 950. Well, if you really want to target farm it, it drops at Lord Zir. The highest chance. But again, I highly recommend buying it from the marketplace. I don't recommend target farming any gear at this point. Rather just farm hell tides. So you sell the boss summoning materials. Like, for example, the Varshan materials and the blood for Lord Zir, it's very expensive if you sell it. Like a Varshan, like the egg he drops, it sells for like 20 million gold or something like that. Oh, thanks, good night. Wow. Greater Affix Intelligence. Junk. They should put a vendor in here. That would be, if they could make one thing, put a vendor in here, so I can open this equipment chest and salvage the gear right away, because I'm still looking for my goddamn aspect. The amulet from Hordes, like the critical strike damage one. I haven't tested that, but So I thought it might be good for like a Chain Lightning build, but I don't know. I think the ratio there is a little bit low. So I tested putting that on, but it was kind of underwhelming. But I didn't test it in a real build yet. I have one in my stash. Yeah, and I think this especially this amulet is just about the affix. I think the rest literally doesn't matter at all. So really all what counts is you want to have like the 40% crit multi. But I don't know, last time I put that on, I probably didn't have enough resource to get the full benefit from it. But I don't know if it has any use whatsoever. I thought it might have a use with the Lightning Spear build. If you can... But then, you know, you're not having Conjuration Mastery, right? So if it would have a use with the Lightning Spear build, you would lose out on like 50 Conjuration Mastery stacks just to get like a... Whatever it is, like a... How much increase in critical strike damage is that actually, right? Where's that? So this is a 0.2% per resource above 100. So you can probably get like 400 resource above 100 somewhere around. And the crit chance, yeah, okay, it's 40% crit chance. But I guess it's just about the crit damage there. And 0.2% of, you know, 500 is just going to be 100x critical strike damage. So I don't think it's going to be like any good. Yeah, and it will kill all your mana. So I guess it's just... If it would be higher, like 0.5% maybe, but I think at 0.2% it's just too bad. I would have to look at it again. I mean, I put that on with wait a second. Grab all this junk here. So if you put this on, and I was putting on this one here, right? This is not a good one with resource. Do I have still a masterwork one? Anyway, so this is 24% resource, right? So if I put this on, I go up to 129 resource. And my crit damage is right now 804. If I put this on now, my crit damage goes to 890, right? So this is 100 extra crit damage. Oh no, this is already on the amulet. So okay, it doesn't seem to show at all in the tooltip. So it's probably just a generic multiplier. I don't think it increases your critical strike damage stat. I think it just is a multiplier. I mean, I don't even know, but I think it's not gonna have any use at all. Like the stats on that thing are just way too terrible. What are good stats to prioritize Masterwork Fists of Fate? Lucky hit. Just want to get lucky hit, really. Let's put that boy away. I don't think it has any use. How much do I have? 10k. I want to farm like so much that I don't never need to farm again. Yeah, so I don't... The amulet seems kind of weak. I think they should understand that the amulet slot, if it doesn't have any kind of passive points, that it's never gonna get used. Because the amulet slot just gives you such a huge amount of damage, and that's why the Winter Glass right now is used so heavily, right? It gives you a 4 base Conjuration Mastery. That's just nuts. Like, your greater epic stat, it has a +6 by default. That's what making the amulet so strong. And whenever they make a unique amulet which doesn't have any passive bonus on it, like nobody's gonna use it. Yeah, I don't know if Firebolt build is gonna be good this season. Because it really didn't really receive any buffs other than, obviously, 3 times the damage from the main hand. Which is not really 3 times. But I think it has a decent buff. So I wanna... I wanna try Arclash. And I might try Firebolt. I wanna try all these builds. But I don't know if I will make all them. Yeah, I mean, just somebody has something on S tier or whatever, without testing the build, just making it based on assumptions. You know, it doesn't say a whole lot to me, honestly. But I think it's gonna be a good boss killer. Like, I think it still has probably the highest boss damage. With the new items, you can get, like, if you play it with Crown of Lucion and the Shard, you're probably looking at around like 300% more damage than last season. So I think it's decent, but it's gonna be terrible for pit runs, because the dungeon phase is just gonna be horrible with that build. I mean, not horrible, but it's gonna be slow. But I think it's gonna be still like a good pit pushing build. At this stage, people haven't really started pushing pits, right? So same as last season, like, people are ramping up, people are farming items, people are farming their masterworking materials, and pit pushing hasn't really begun. Right now everybody's just farming Infernal Hordes, right, because the reward is just so much better, and I feel like there's no real point in trying to push high-end builds to, like, pits at this point. I don't even know what implicit perk it has, but... So, oh, you mean the unique power. So, the percent to spawn Frozen Orbs on Lucky Hit is... It depends what build are you playing, right? If you want to self-cast Frozen Orbs, the stat is not so important. You don't want to have it at a min roll, but it's not super important. If you don't want to self-cast Frozen Orb, if you want to go for a build like this, the lucky hit stat is very important. So important is you want to have a 0.3 seconds cooldown reduction on Lightning Spear if you want to not self-cast Frozen Orbs, and you want to have a high lucky hit chance. That's the most important ones. Conjuration Master is always just damage. So you're not going to need peak damage. Even if you have a +3, when the other stats are good, you know what? You're going to lose a rank on Conjuration Mastery. That's not the end of the world. You're still going to do way more than enough damage for this content. Yeah, they should add a leaderboard. It's really unfortunate that they don't have one. But again, like, at this point, people are not really into pit pushing yet. I think that's going to start, like, in a couple of weeks. Maybe in 1 or 2 weeks, when people, you know, have everything figured out. They will probably start pushing pits. But at this point, everybody's ramping up. Like, you also want to get your gear now, right? If you like, into high-tier gaming, if you want to do high-tier pushing, pit pushing and stuff like that later, you want to get your gear now. Because right now, gear is still affordable. Like, right now you can get a 3 out of 3 greater FX legendary items for like 20 billion gold. Which is, you know what, is probably like somewhere around $150 worse in real money. But farming 15 billion gold does only take you like a day. Right, if you trade. Like, right now, it is still the time to buy that gear. In 2 or 3 weeks from now, you're not gonna be able to purchase that stuff anyway, because the inflation is gonna be so high. So it absolutely makes sense farming now, buying the gear you need. Now, 1 billion is like 6 or 7, I believe, last time I checked, but, you know, maybe you can get it for 4. Well, the crit chance is 85% really. But getting crit chance in this build is not very difficult. Honestly, you just use Asus boots, and you have like, you know, if you want to have like 35% Asus boots, you can buy it for like 50 million. So that shouldn't be an issue. So you already start with like 35%. You have like 15% base crit chance or something like that, so you're already at 50%. So you really just need another 30% or something like that. So maxing out crit in this build is like so easy. It really shouldn't be a huge issue at all. Like, you don't even need greater affixes crit. I don't know if I want this. I think this just doubles Ether Fiends and the random elites. I think that's what it does. So we're gonna take it. I don't want Hellfire. I hate Hellfire. I have cooldown reduction on focus, I believe. I mean, it depends on your rolls. If you have good cooldown reduction rolls, you don't need it. I mean, I have it right now on my focus, but I probably also don't need it. No, I think I'm running crit right now on my focus, actually. I mean, I just have enough at this point. Like, if I push more cooldown reduction, yeah, it's gonna give me another 5 lightning spears, but again, I don't need to build overkill damage. Yeah, I know Hellborn is good for us, but I mean, Hellfire is okay, but I would only take it if there's really nothing good, and I think the chance for Elite is doubled is better, even though I don't exactly know what it does. But Hellfire essentially needs 2 different perks, which I don't really like so much. On the other hand, it gives you access to another node. So if you have the Hellfire, then you have more chances of getting another Hellborn node, basically, right? So, yeah, I'm running cooldown on my focus right now. But you don't have to do it. If you have... I mean, I have very good cooldown at this point. So I could probably even remove it. And I don't have cooldown on my focus because I feel like it's too much. You don't really need it. Especially if you do the Lightning Spear cooldown also on your ring. No chance for elites. It doubles the Hellborn spawns basically, like the random Ether Fiends or Ether Fiends. They spawn more often. That's what it does. Yes, you can absolutely do tier 7 without Ubers. You can do a tier 8 without Ubers without any problems. You can just get a regular helmet with cooldown reduction, and really you're gonna miss a little bit of cooldown reduction, but that's absolutely fine. Again, without the Shaco, I would not... I would self-cast the Frozen Orbs. I would use the Frozen Orbs to spawn my Lightning Spears. But that's absolutely fine. Like, you can absolutely do tier 8 Infernal Hordes with that without major problems. In fact, I even boosted people with that. I mean, I had Uber Uniques at that point, but the Uber Uniques really just help with survivability, not so much with the damage. So it's absolutely doable. Again, I'm not gonna answer questions if any build is better or not. It is always dependent on your gear. This is a different build. I cannot answer that question. I would have to know your exact specs and everything. There's really no answer to a question if a build is better than another. You just watch the gameplay and see which one you like more, basically. And you also gotta be honest with yourself with, you know, how much access to gear you have. Because this is a high tier build. This requires lots of gear. If you don't have lots of gear, you're not gonna play this build. If you don't have Fist of Fate with greater FX lucky hit and decent attack speed roll, this build is not gonna be so good. So really be honest to yourself if this is something you want to play, or if you rather want to stick with the, you know, with the regular builds. The spikes shooting out, that's Turel's might. If you're almost there with the gear and you can do tier 6, you're not there with the gear, or you build something completely wrong. Because if you're almost where I am, you should be flying through tier 7s, and you should have absolutely no problems with tier 8s. So I don't think you are even remotely there, or you built something wrong. So just be honest with yourself. Like, if you say you're almost there, is that really you're almost there? Like, you really have 12 out of 12 items, you really have 50% cooldown reduction, you really have your crit damage rolls masterwork properly, you have your cooldown reduction rolls masterwork properly, you have your chances of extra casting frozen orbs and stuff like that, you have a winter glass with +3, +4. So yeah, if you have low amulet, you already answered your question. Like, the amulet is the heart of this build. That's what I'm saying. Like, as long as you're really not having very high-end gear, you want to stick to the very end where you're casting your frozen orb. I hate that, like, a lot of other content creators just tell you this lightning spear build is the best. Just play this lightning spear build. Just put a 200 staff in your hand and you're gonna casting a million lightning spears which gonna kill everything. And it's just not true. It requires a very, very high gear. And just self-casting the frozen orb, literally you can start it at level 80. Like, it doesn't require a lot of gear. And I would really like people, making people aware of, you know, just saying, you know what, this build is gonna be absolutely dog shit. If you don't have 50% cooldown reduction, if you don't have 12 out of 12 gear, if you don't have a 4.3 winter glass, if you don't hit 2 of 3 masterworking on your cooldown reductions, so really the build is not gonna work without those things, right? Yeah, if you have a 0.3 airfix on the winter glass, and I mean, you don't need +4 conjuration mastery. Honestly, you can also get it +3. This is just gonna be some more damage. It's really not a requirement to have +4 conjuration mastery. That's just gonna add you another 10% damage, I would say. But that is important, yes. Like, with the 0.1 seconds, it's gonna be very, very bad. Like, you absolutely need the 0.3 seconds. That's the most important stat there. And also, the lucky hit should be high. The lucky hit is a min roll. I mean, it's not gonna be as fluent as you can see with mine. Like, you're just gonna have more cooldown on lightning spears. But really, the only important item you need for this is winter glass and really a lot of cooldown reduction. You can always go back to self-casting frozen orb. Like, if the build doesn't work for you without self-casting frozen orb all the time, you can always revert back. I don't know. I feel like, you know, you can just check the build planner and you should usually notice what your problem is, right? I don't know, maybe I'm optimistic there. But I mean, I guess the problem is a lot of players follow the build planners, but they don't really look at the stats, right? So they see, oh, Fractured Winterglass, I just use Fractured Winterglass, but they don't look at the detailed stats. Same with like the masterworking crits, right? So there's a reason why there's like 2 masterworking crits on certain items in the build guide. Like there's a reason why there's at least 2 masterworking on the Shaco. There's a reason why there's 2 cooldown reduction masterworking on the Tarasha ring. Right, there's reasons why there's 2 masterworking crits on a greater FX attack speed on this ring. This is not for no reason. And if you don't have those, I mean, it's alright, but I mean, you just gotta be aware that, oh wow, holy shit. This is like 15 billion gold, I would say. Maybe 25 billion gold. This is an expensive item. I mean, I sold one with 200% and just 25% basic attack speed and plus 3 basic skills greater FX. But I think nobody is going to care about the basic skills greater FX. I think the attack speed greater FX is much more impactful. That's an expensive item. Maybe if I want to try a basic skill build and if it's not so expensive, then I think maybe I'm going to use it myself. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of true. I think that's always the problem with publishing high-tier build guides. Players just watch a high-tier build guide and they think, oh, I can do this. I have the same items. I just masterwork this and, you know, it's gonna work. And then, you know, in this build, if you just miss 10% cooldown reduction, right, your whole ramp up with the lightning speed is going to be freaking slow, and you're never going to get over the hill, basically. So this build particularly is very punishing in that regards, right? Like for example, a Blizzard build or a traditional Frozen Orb build or the Fireball build, for example, they are not very punishing if you're not having like max stats. The build is still going to work fine. You're just going to, you know, top out at a little bit less damage. But this build with the whole cooldown reduction story, it's basically just not going to work at a certain point. I think you should just, I mean, I think you should just basically categorize the build guides a little bit better. So maybe instead of making basically one video, right, and so if I make one build guide, right, and I put in with Uber uniques and stuff like that, and then I just put on the planner, oh yeah, and here's like the early version of the build, right? People are still gonna expect they're gonna do the same amount of damage and the same amount of clear speed than I using the Uber uniques. So maybe it would be better to make 2 different build guides. Basically, one for the Uber uniques and one for the non-Uber uniques. And I try to do that in my videos to make 2 different versions, because you cannot really make 2 videos is the problem. Because the YouTube algorithm is just gonna prioritize one video and the other one is literally not gonna get any views. So that's why you would never make basically 2 videos with the same build. One is an early game variant and one is a late game variant, right? So that it just doesn't work by YouTube algorithm. If it would make sense, I would do it. But unfortunately, you cannot really do it. So you would have always to include basically 2 complete separate guides in one video. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I honestly don't know. If I'm at this point, I don't know if I want to choose Hellborn first or if I want to choose Exalted Hordes first. I really don't know. But I'm gonna go with Hellborn this time. .5 cooldown reduction? Is that even possible to have such low cooldown reduction? Where do you get 7.5 cooldown reduction from? So, yeah, you need kind of... I mean, if you want to self-cast Frozen Orb, right, it will work with 7.5 cooldown reduction. You're just gonna cast, like, a Lightning Spear once every 5 seconds, which is still gonna, you know, bring you to, like, tier 6 or something like that. Okay, so, I mean, you can definitely start building this. But yeah, what you want to look for is you want to look for a helmet with cooldown reduction, and I know they drop like very low drop rate, right? Because the stats are basically weighted. And you don't want to enchant for cooldown reduction. Just never ever do that. You're just gonna burn through all your resources and you never see cooldown reduction. So you really can pick up any helm. Like, don't even care what stats it at, right? You find the helm with cooldown reduction, just put it on, masterwork it to 4 out of 12, right? And that is very cheap to do. You just have to do like a pit run or, you know, Infernal Hordes tier like 4 or something like that. So you get a helmet, any helmet really, it doesn't matter at all. Just put cooldown reduction on it. And same you do with focus. Like you take any focus with cooldown reduction. Really, the stats are irrelevant. Just make it have cooldown reduction and masterwork it to 4 out of 12. And then you're already going to be good. It's gonna help a lot. And then next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna use random rings. Just take a random ring you have with attack speed on or critical strike chance on. Doesn't really matter what it has, right? Take any ring, and then you do the tempering for the lightning spear cooldown reduction. That is pretty easy to temper on there. Don't sweat the crit damage temper and everything. Just start with the lightning spear cooldown reduction. Really, you can use any ring. You don't even need greater affixes or stuff like that. Just use any ring and try to get lightning spear cooldown reduction and critical strike damage onto that thing. And then you're gonna be pretty good already. Yeah, so then you should be alright. Should you stay on your Eternal Realm? Well, I guess it depends. Do you want to trade? Or do you not want to trade? If you don't want to trade, stay on Eternal, because you know what? The season is irrelevant if you don't want to trade. Because there's nothing in the season. Other than a free Resplendent Spark if you really want that. But besides that, you can just absolutely play Eternal Realm. And use all your like Uber Uniques. You can, you know, craft new Uber Uniques with your old ones you have or whatever. Like, I feel like the way that they made the past 2 seasons made it much more rewarding to technically play on Eternal Realm, because there's no seasonal content. And I feel like there's also not, like next season there's also no seasonal content. Like with the expansion there's probably not going to be any seasonal content again. I mean, it's faster because I also have like better gear, but yeah, this has faster reaction times. This is definitely tailored to be a little bit faster clearing these waves. The Vox Omnium Staff, that's useless. Like this, it has no use for any build whatsoever. I don't know what the design idea behind that thing was, but it's just garbage. Because literally, if you play the Shard of what's it called? Shard of Veraciel or something like. I actually saw that coming, that he's gonna kill me. Those are actually the only dangerous ones, like the Ever Fiends, the Desecrators. They do like crazy amount of damage. And this build is not so tanky, unfortunately, because I don't have Mana Shield. But it happens sometimes. Yeah, it works against tier 120, takes like a minute and a half or minute 40 seconds, somewhere around that. Absolutely no problem. I messed that up. That could have been a pretty good run if I wouldn't have died there. Again, stuff, you need a lot of gear. Want and Focus you can always play. Want and Focus is faster. Stuff is slower, but does significantly more damage. But again, to me, it's overkill damage. I don't need in Infernal Hordes. So I understand that people doing it, but I mean, I tried it. I don't like it as much. It just does more damage, which I don't need. I just like the faster attack speed and the faster reaction timings way more. Yeah, exactly. So if you're Eternal and you need certain pieces with greater FX gear, I mean, there's very, very limited trading, but basically you gotta self-farm it. And it's gonna take you forever. Like, I did that last season. Like, I really had no access to the gear I need. That's why I basically stopped playing early, because you have no access to it. So if you really want to trade for gear, you have to play seasonal. How much lucky hit bonus do you need? I mean, I think I have like 200. I have 187 plus 20% on my or 25. So I have like 210, and then you have another 9. So I have 220. But I played this without greater FX Fists of Fate, which just had like a 60%, no, 80% or so. It worked just fine. So you don't need like crazy high lucky hit chance for this. Yeah, also exactly the boss. I mean, you will find boss rotations on Eternal Realm, but also the supply is very limited, but you can find them at least. But yeah, when, like, seasonal... As much as I hate... I mean, I technically hate playing on the Seasonal Realm, because I really don't need a restart in the economy. I would rather, like, just use the old stuff I already have, and not be forced to refarm it. And that's why I really hate that the season doesn't have any mechanics, right? Season 2 had Vampire Power, Season 1 had, like, the Malignant Hearts, Season 3 had this whatever construct. Okay, that wasn't really anything, but... You know, since the seasons right now have basically no real content, I kind of don't like it that you cannot trade. That's kind of... I don't know, it's bothering me. They should just give the seasons content again. I mean, I understand they stopped doing that for fixing the game, and I don't think that's the bad thing necessarily. But still, I hate that the seasons don't have a real content anymore. It depends what you want to do. Is it as important as cooldown reduction? It's probably... I mean, it depends if how good your mana is going. I mean, you can get away with just putting it on your chest piece, for example, if you're playing the earlier version. But again, like, cooldown reduction is... You know, the more cooldown reduction you get, the more lightning spears you're going to be able to cast, right? But you can always self-cast your frozen orbs, and they're going to spawn conjurations as well. As long as you are handling your resource properly, you can still wait. You know, you will find a helm with cooldown reduction and mana regeneration at some point. I would say the most important is that you're going to be fine on your resources. Because you know what, if you're going to be out of mana, you don't need cooldown reduction because you're not going to cast shit anyway. Yeah, Turret's Might is Uber chest. It's literally the best chest piece. For, I would say, pretty much all classes at this point. What's the best single target build for Sorg? I couldn't tell you. Probably right now, I don't know. It's probably going to be Firebolt, honestly. But nobody's playing that. Like right now, people are just farming Infernal Hordes. Like nobody cares about pit pushing at this stage of the game. So I guess we gotta wait a little bit until we see what's gonna be the best single target build. But my assumption is it's still gonna be Firebolt, because with the new items it's just has 300% more damage than last season. And it was already doing like very, very strong single target damage. This is a decent run. Probably gonna end up at like 1000, maybe 1100 even. No, not 1100 probably. Depends on what I get now. Yeah, I mean 44% is alright. Well, if you don't want to run the hybrid, you really need good gear. So it's just not gonna work if you don't have very good gear. It's barely gonna work without the Shaco helmet. It's just gonna be worse. I mean, it's still gonna work, but the hybrid version is just gonna be better at that stage. Because casting the Frozen Orb is gonna net you more Frozen Orb explosions, which is gonna reduce your cooldowns for Lightning Spear more than the self-sustain of the Lucky 8 Conjurations. So it's really not gonna work unless you have like very, very good gear. But if you have a Shaco, it should work. You just need a good cooldown reduction. I mean, you gotta double. You can always double masterwork. Rasha Ring. You can always double masterwork your focus with cooldown reduction. So 5 seconds baseline. Oh, -2 5 seconds actually. Crit chance is not super important. I mean, you have Asus boots, right? So you're gonna be at 40% base. And if you remove all your crit chance, right? So if I remove my crit ring, my crit focus, now as you can see, where's my crit chance? So where's this goddamn crit chance? Here. So it's 42.5%. If I use Asus, it's 33.2, right? So your base crit chance is pretty high for this build, right? So you're at 33% without any crit items whatsoever. Then you just put 2 crit items on, and then you're maxed at, I mean, 85 would be max technically. Your CG 3D, thanks for the support. Appreciate it. So really, anything above 70% crit, I would say, is absolutely fine. Yeah, so you only need 85% crit, right? Even if you play the hybrid build, you don't need 100% crit on the Frozen Orbs. So if you have the 85% crit, because the Lightning Spear has a native 15% crit bonus, you're just gonna be absolutely fine. Yeah, I mean, attack speed is also, you also need attack speed. I mean, but you know, you're gonna build it up over time. Like, your first focus should be just get regular items with attack speed and crit, right? So for your ring, just get attack speed crit, and for your gloves, get attack speed crit. That should be like your first focus to get these. And after that, you can go from there. But usually you always want to have attack speed and critical strike chance on your rings and gloves. That's kind of the first focus you're looking for. You don't even need greater affix. You can absolutely go for normal affixes. And don't reset your masterworks early. Just, you know, you just put them to 4 out of 12. And if you decide to keep the item, you just put it to 8 out of 12. You don't want to go any higher if it's not like greater affix items, I would say. But 8 out of... What? Why did I die? Oh, that's so unfortunate. No, I have to do it again? Oh, God. the minimum attack speed I recommend? I don't know. A lot. You would have to look at the breakpoint tables. I have to be careful. I only have 0 lives. Damn, what am I doing here? Okay, let's be careful. Did I sit in that Hydra or something like that? Did that Hydra hit me with like all 3 firebolts at once? I don't even know. But kind of odd I died there. Because usually I just face tank these. I mean this Scallop the Flame, that's definitely the most dangerous of these. Let's be a little bit careful, you know. Don't want to die. That's like 869 ever. Jesus Christ. Hydras everywhere. So it's really dangerous. Like this particular one is like super dangerous if he's alone. Because he just keeps running away and these Hydras and these Meteors, they do like significant damage. And this guy just keeps teleporting and keeps teleporting. So... No, all spears. So lightning spears have an extra 15% crit chance, basically. Well, if you're playing the Wand and Focus version, I would probably not go below, I don't know, like probably somewhere around 70%. There's like a breakpoint, I would say. Like I would aim for like the 90%, but I don't even think I have this. So I am at 62. Actually, since I made this build, I haven't even looked at the tables, what the breakpoints are. And maybe I should do that, actually, because I might be short, like... I might be short just some. Let me just check this real quick. So we have Frozen Orb, Wand and Focus. And I have 62, so I have, whatever, 85.7, right? So I'm... Oh, so the breakpoint seems to be 85.9. But again, I made these with 1.3 accuracy, so I might be at the 85.9, actually. Oh wait, I'm at 87, I'm too stupid for Mars. So I'm above the 85.9 breakpoint, so that's pretty much alright. So there's one at 76.1, which is alright. 85.9 is alright. 94.4 is very hard to reach at this stage, I guess. I mean, you can reach it barely, but it's gonna be difficult. You basically need triple crit on greater FX attack speed, I guess, with this. So I guess go for the 76 one or even for the 69 one. Like, you're gonna be alright. As long as you're not sitting at 15% attack speed, it's gonna be alright. How many stones? I don't know, I'm still picking them up. No, I'm always filling one inventory of gear. Because you need the materials for masterworking. And I'm still missing... So, the most important aspect, right? The splintering energy. I'm missing this aspect still. I only have a 14 out of 16. And I can't drop this goddamn aspect. Like, I don't know what's the problem with it, but I cannot find that aspect. It's just not dropping. I really spent like 6 hours straight opening this equipment chest, filling out 4 stash tabs, salvaging them all over again, and I can't find that aspect. It is... So I basically gave up on it. It's gonna happen eventually, but I really tried very, very hard, and it just didn't drop. I don't know what's wrong with that, but it's just the RNG out of hell, probably. Yeah, I mean, if you sell the stones, I mean, somebody just said they dropped to 20 million. So, I mean, I started... When did I start? Like, I started like 2 hours ago, and I had 40 stones. So now I have, what is it, 87? So I made 40 stones. If they are at 20 million, that's basically 800 million for like, what is it, 2 hours. If you really want to make the most money and you are, yeah, I know, but I don't have obols. Where do I get them from? I have to farm Helltide. But if you, like, the most money, honestly, you're gonna make out of the equipment chest. But you're not gonna get masterworking materials, right? But the equipment chest gives you the most money. Because you're gonna find... So, right now, right, because, for example, you find a two-handed wand with just greater FX critical strike chance. That's like 1.5 billion gold right there. And you find a 2 greater FX... You find a staff with crit damage and life greater FX. It's like 5 to 6 billions. Like, right, I just found this shard here, right? This is probably like somewhere around 15 billion. Greater, so two-handed weapon with greater FX crit is very, very expensive. Because everybody wants to play the Mekuna build, right? So you need a stuff with greater FX critical strike chance, because you absolutely cannot play that without. So that's how people think, right? Like, if you use this stuff, where is it? Where's my stuff? Ah, there. So you use this stuff for Lightning Spear build. No, that's not gonna work. It doesn't have greater FX critical strike damage. You cannot use this. They rather get greater FX critical strike damage, but non-greater FX intelligence. And you know what? It's gonna do probably like somewhere around 5% more damage than this one. But this one costs 100 million, and the one with critical strike damage costs 1.5 billion. Right? So it is really just nuances at that point, and people probably have way more issues with their gear, but they just buy it basically blindly. And that's why certain items are completely overpriced right now. What am I doing here? So it's a little weird. And if you play my build, like, you know, guess what this item is gonna cost you? That's gonna cost you less than 1.5 billion. It's a double greater FX, right? So, it's also something you want to keep in mind when you choose your build. You know, how expensive is gonna be the gear, because, you know what? In the end, you're not gonna self-farm it, right? If you're gonna... I mean, you can self-farm all your gear, but it's gonna take a significant amount of time until you're done with that. What enchantments I'm using? Firebolt enchantment and Frozen Orb enchantment. You can use Ice Blades enchantment as well. I like Frozen Orb enchantment more. Yeah, exactly. I really feel like a build should work without greater affixes. I mean, obviously the build I'm showing right now does not work without greater affixes, but the base variant of this build works without greater affixes. And you're always gonna start out the build without greater affixes. I mean, even if I try a new build, right? I'm not gonna purchase all that gear with greater affixes. I'm gonna try the build without greater affixes and see if I like it. If I don't like it at all, I'm not gonna invest a shit ton out of gold and time into, you know, buying out all that greater affix gear for a build which I might not even like. So, And I feel like you already see if a build is gonna work out, even without having greater affixes. Because just having regular items with crit attack speed and int or something like that, or crit attack speed and crit damage, it's not so hard to get as long as they don't have greater affixes. You can also buy them, but you know, it's usually, at this stage in the game, it's usually hard to buy items without greater affixes because people are not gonna list them anymore. In the early game, it was pretty easy. You could buy all these items for like 20 million gold. Just stockpile them. But I guess it always depends on how much you play, right? So if you only play like an hour a day, it's gonna take a while until you find a ring with crit chance and attack speed, for example. And you're also not gonna have the materials to enchant it, because enchanting is ridiculous in this season. Just costs a gazillion of these, whatever they are called, like the salvage materials from legendary whatever. Costs like way too much. Same with the masterworking. Like the masterworking costs so much basic materials. I don't know who made that mass, but you know, if I have to run Infernal Hordes tier 8 and open the equipment chest just to keep re-rolling my masterworking gear because it costs so many of those white, whatever, iron scraps or whatever they're called, that is just so stupid. And I mean, I have to give that feedback, obviously, but you shouldn't be limited in like these kind of materials. I feel like you shouldn't be limited in. So, if you masterwork, right? So the masterworking resource is like Ness Iron, and the other one like Ingolis and Optusid or whatever that shit is called. But that's the masterworking materials. That should be your limiting factor. Right now, you want to know the most retarded thing? If I want to get a 2 out of 3 masterwork items, right? Usually you would do the first masterwork, then reset. Do the first masterwork, then reset. Until you have the first masterwork hit, right? And then you do the second one, and if you don't hit the second one, I reset, right? But I don't do that. If I don't hit the second one, I actually keep masterworking to the 12 out of 12 because it doesn't cost the white materials, right? So I rather spend like 800 Ness Iron to masterwork it to 12 out of 12 to then reset it because it doesn't cost the white materials. I mean, is that stupid or like... And I basically noticed that. I was like, why the hell, so the last tier doesn't cost the white materials. So I will always go to 12 out of 12 because my bottleneck are the white materials, not the legendary materials, which is like completely stupid. I feel like there should just be a way to trade in, like, to trade the materials. Like, and there used to be a way to trade these materials. They took it out. Like at the very beginning, you could transmute these iron scraps and stuff like that, right? You could make, I don't know exactly what that was, but there was like transmutation, I think it was at the blacksmith for the white materials. You could definitely change them. You can trade them at the potions. I don't think you still can do that. I think you could that, but it doesn't work anymore. Yeah. You can only do the masterworking materials, but not the white materials anymore. I mean, I can show you after this run how ridiculous that cost actually is. If you just want to, you know, if you want to hit like a 2 out of 3 masterwork. So I always say hitting 2 out of 3 masterworking is good enough. I will never ever make a build which relies on hitting 3 out of 3 masterwork. Because you know what? That's gonna take, like, statistically a whole day of farming. Right? Just to masterwork 1 item to 3 specific crits. So I would never ever, like, dare to, like, make any build which relies on that. My target is usually just, you know, 2 out of 3 is fine, right? If I have 2 out of 3, even if the third one goes to like complete dog shit, I don't care. I have the 2 out of 3. That's absolutely good enough for me. Like the last 5%, you know what? It's just gonna be so incredible hard to get. And that is something for people who like play this game for a living and do it all day long. Like they can do that. I absolutely can't. Like I have to settle down with like 2 out of 3 masterworking crits. I'm never gonna get 3 out of 3. Unless I'm like extremely lucky, obviously. Like it sometimes happens, but I would never target for that. Exception is greater effects on Shaco. Yeah, the bundled herbs, not so bad for me. Because they drop at the masterworking materials chests, I believe. I don't even know where they drop, but I have a shit ton of them, so they must be dropping somewhere. I think they drop at the material chest at the end of Hordes. They should just drop the white materials there as well. Right, if they would just drop the armor scraps and however the other ones are called, I don't know. If they would just drop them off the material chest, you know, everything would be good. Yeah, but exactly, and I open it like a lot of times, right? So... But I mean, that wouldn't be a bottleneck because you can also, I mean, if you want, you can buy the potions of Diablo to trade. They're pretty cheap, actually. But yeah, the white materials is just ridiculous. The cost of that. It's like, holy moly. Same for the enchanting. The enchanting has been, like, it's so much worse than before. I mean, I have a huge stockpile of the materials by now, but at the beginning you barely, like, you literally couldn't enchant at all. It was so expensive. And I felt like before it was much better, because this angel breath you need for nothing now. Like, it's completely useless. I mean, yeah, you use it for potion crafting and incense, but it really isn't a huge deal anymore. So I don't get removing one bottleneck and then just creating another one. It's just stupid. But I think these things can slip through, right? Because it's just, you know, it's just complaining on like a high level. Because the average player who's doing like hell tides and stuff like that, he's not going to run out of these materials, right? It's just me because all I'm doing right now is doing the Infernal Hordes, and then I want to upgrade my gear. And unfortunately, the white things don't drop in Infernal Hordes, so if I would go Helltide and do my Whispers and stuff like that, it wouldn't be an issue. But I just dislike... I mean, I didn't even dislike Helltide. This season Helltide felt pretty good. But still, after like 2 or 3 days, I'm over it. I don't want to go there ever again. Because all I would get is rune shards then, I guess. I mean, I have like 300 rune shards, and... since the meta right now is not really about pit, you don't really need the rune shards. So why would I do Helltides? It's great for leveling, it's great for gearing up early and stuff like that, absolutely. But in the late game, you don't really need to go there at all. You're welcome, bro. I mean, it's not completely useless, the Angel Breath. You can use it for potion crafting, right? But, I mean, yeah, that's about it. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call it a waste of time. I mean, the yellow materials are still, like, good if you're not there yet, right? Masterworking your stuff to 8 out of 12 is still important. But, I mean, yeah, the jump from tier 6 to tier 7 in materials is just huge, obviously. That's true. And obviously, the 9 waves, you just get so much more ever out of it. So the jump from tier 6 to tier 7 is very huge. But if you're not there yet, farming tier 6 is still very rewarding. If you want to masterwork. You know, even if you want to masterwork like 8 out of 12s and just hit the first affix, it can be super valuable to do that. Even with if you're playing tier 6. Explosive build? What is the explosive build? You mean fireball? Well, you're not gonna get Stygian stones from the material chest on non-seasonal? Really? It's seasonal only? No. That makes so little sense, actually. So I used to do Mythic WoW raiding. I actually I stopped with Battle for Azeroth because Jaina was such a like stupid bitch. And I mean we beat it at the very end, but it took like a gazillion tries. And I was playing tank, and playing tank in Mythic raiding in World of Warcraft is not like, it's not like crazy spam. But you basically have to play a rotation, which involves pressing a specific buttons roughly every like 1.2 seconds. And sometimes even closer together. And doing that for like 4 hours straight, it was like mind-blowing. But the APM actually wasn't very high. Like, I used to play when I was younger, when I still had like agility and stuff like that. I used to play StarCraft on a relatively high level, and then I used to play Warcraft 3. And you needed like significantly more APM than this. Yeah, if it's glowing, press it. Well, not always, but yeah, it was most likely like that. I mean, I was playing Death Knight, so a lot actually was if it's glowing, press it. But you know, you had abilities where you would heal, so it would be glowing if you hit with this. If you hit with the spell, it would heal you by like 30%. And you actually had to see, okay, I don't want to hit this at 100%, right? So you had to use your brain at least a little bit, because otherwise, you know, your healers would run out of mana if you would waste all your self heals because it was just glowing at the wrong time. But yeah, healers problems, right? But I mean, Mythic raiding World of Warcraft was fun for a while. I guess now you cannot really play that anymore, that game, but I guess the most fun I had in Mythic raiding was actually in Legion. I really liked the bosses, like the last boss fights, the Cahoon. That was actually a pretty cool fight. And yeah, obviously I played Classic back in the days, and then again, but yeah, raiding in Classic is more like, you know, just watch a guide and kill the boss. Not so difficult. It was back in the days, though. I hate this flame guy. Like, the flame guy is really the worst of them. Stupid teleporting is so annoying. So yeah, you really, you want to pay like a little bit of attention if you do these bosses, that you don't kill like 2 bosses so early and you have like half HP unstaggerable boss left. That's just really not what you want to do. You kind of want to make sure you balance the damage before there's just one of them left. It's really important. You're welcome. Right. Oh, why is that stuff there? Okay. Just... Yeah. Yeah, I usually do, but you know, sometimes I just get sloppy. Basically, if you have like this lightning spear build, right, and you have 2 bosses on top of each other, it's just way too tempting to just, you know, nuke them down instantly, because it's just going to be so much more efficient if 2 of them are grouped up. But then, you know, You gotta pay the price. The chest still bugged? Which chest is bugged? So, sorry, I didn't answer. So, Fireball is very easy, low gear requirement build. You really just need the legendary stuff and the gloves. And the build auto works because the gloves give you infinite mana regeneration. So you really just slap on that stuff. And the Fire Paragon boards and key passives basically already give you like 80% crit or something like that. So Firebolt is a very easy build to get online. But it doesn't really... I mean, it carries you to like tier 7 Infernal Hordes, no problem. But then it kind of lacks damage. $60 cost... No. It's random, right? I mean, it usually gives like greater affix gear, but I feel like it... I feel like the chest is exactly the same than the other one, just with like 3 times more items.
What will it be? You can take what's left.
Oh, I'm out of compass. I mean, at this point I could probably craft the tier 8s, but you know... I don't want to. I want to use the stupid scrolls. They gotta be like for something, right? You're carrying... Thanks for the British pound. Appreciate that. How's it going on the island over there? Yeah, I mean, they say it's a guaranteed greater affix, but you know... Any way to increase survival without the chest? Well, it's really just about damage reduction. So, I mean, you can always get more damage reduction, right? So you don't need damage aspects on your defensive pieces. You can always get like damage reduction affixes. And if you look at the Paragon I'm playing right now, so everybody is playing like 8 glyph, right? I'm only playing 7 glyph now, so I specifically switch. I pick these life nodes. I pick these life nodes, right? I opted for this damage reduction. I opt for this vulnerable damage reduction here. So it's absolutely no shame to get more damage reduction in the Paragon board. You can also always get like reinforced glyph, for example. Really, as long as you like not sitting inside the content and you were like, oh my god, like I cannot beat stuff because I do not enough damage. You know what? It doesn't hurt to remove one single Paragon board and like a glyph. It's costing you like 10%, maybe 12% damage to remove a board, right? So really the board which is missing here, right? If I put a Searing Heat on here, right? And, you know, I just put a Flame Flair glyph in here, right? That's literally, I lose 10% damage by removing one board, right? If I could add that board back in, I would lose all these life nodes. I would lose these life nodes. I would lose these damage reduction nodes. That's a full 20% damage reduction. I would lose another 12% damage reduction here. So I would lose roughly like 30 to 35% damage reduction and a good amount of max life, actually like 5 to 6k max life, for the trade-off of 10% damage, right? So a lot of build makers basically min-max the builds for maximum damage. But the content we're playing right here, it doesn't require maximum damage. Like this content doesn't require maximum damage. I can probably put my focus off and I can still do it. No problem. So really, I would always recommend like get defensive nodes in the Paragon. Like there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. whatever build guide you're using, just remove the last board and get all the damage reduction you want. Get the life nodes, and you're good. Yeah, I have this board in the lucky hit version, actually. The earlier versions of this build also have damage reduction in them. I think only the mid-game and the Uber version don't have it. Because if you're doing the self-casting Frozen Orb, you also get Mana Shield, right? I don't have Mana Shield because I don't spend resource. So that's a 30% damage reduction I'm missing there. But you can also always put Ever Living and Aspect of Concentration on your armor pieces. That's another 50%. So really, if you get like around 200% damage reduction, like 150 to 200%, there's still certain stuff which is gonna one-shot you. Like, it just sometimes happens. For example, in this Infernal Hordes, there's this Desecrator or whatever it's called, right? He shoots like 3 firebolts, and if they all 3 hit you, you're gonna be one-shot. Even if you have 85% max res, it's just gonna one-shot you. But you get a lot less one-shots if you build more damage reduction. It's not gonna save you in all of the times. But you know, I still die like once half an hour or something like that. It just happens to me. Yeah, I mean, you can play without Orange Herald. What you can do is you can switch into Overflowing Energy. So I'm playing Overflowing Energy right now in this build. You can also play with Mastery. It gives nice damage reduction. But Overflowing Energy also works kind of okay. I mean, I have like a downtime of 5 to 10 seconds on my Unstable Currents in this mob phase, because my Ice Blades just don't hit fast enough. But I find it not to be a huge issue. As long as I have Unstable Currents permanently for the bosses, I'm good. 0.35 cooldown reduction on shock. What do you mean by that? Yeah, so if you get hit by the 3 firebolts, you're done. That is just what it is. They really kill me with Turel Smite through like 85% max res. They still kill you through like a full barrier and life. You're just gonna be one shot if you get hit by those 3 firebolts. No clue what to do with though. Like this guy is gonna one shot you with the 3 firebolts. So the Paragon boards will change with the expansion. They said there's gonna be new boards, I guess, and reworks. But I think nobody knows anything about it at this point. But I don't have any knowledge on that anyway, so... But something is gonna change. Put on a Crackling hit. I think. I don't even know. So Overflowing Energy, and this works pretty good because you have a... So the thing with Overflowing Energy is, right, if you have a lot of elites around, it really does a whole lot, right? And in this content, you have elites around all the time, so Overflowing Energy really works great. And then in the boss fight, you actually have 3 mobs, right? So also there, it works very good. So in general, Overflowing Energy gives you a decent amount of cooldown reduction on your Unstable Currents, and it also gives you a decent amount of cooldown reduction on your Lightning Spear, actually. I can play it without, I can also play it with Mastery. They both work. You can basically switch it around. No, it's not a huge damage loss. Since it's not like a flat 25% damage, it's just like this weird, you know, you have 10% chance to burst for like 250%. I don't even know if it works on the Lightning Spear you know, ability or not. Like, the tooltip is not really clear on what spells that actually works. So, you know, I wouldn't give too much about it. It's more like it gives 25% damage reduction. That's why I basically choose it, right? I didn't really choose it for the damage increase. Paramaniac and Invocation glyphs. Finally, Invocation didn't work for Hydras? Isn't Invocation the one which gives crit damage to Conjurations? So the problem with the Hydra build is, Hydras only scale good with burning damage. Hydras don't scale good with direct damage. I want to actually make a Hydra build, but with Endarials and dot damage. The regular damage on Hydra just doesn't scale so good because the problem with Hydra is, so the burn part of the Hydra doesn't scale with the damage. It just scales with, so it is always just a skills-based damage, right? So if you, you know, my assumption was, right, if I have a Hydra and I get like, you know, 1500% crit damage and the Hydra crits, it does 2 million damage and then I get 2 million burn damage. But it doesn't work like that. So it gets the base damage of the Hydra as burn, which is like, whatever, like 5k or something like that, like a very low number. And then the burn damage doesn't scale at all. And that's why Hydra, it really only scales with burn damage. But with burn damage, it actually scales quite decent. So I definitely want to try that out with the extra Hydra heads. But I think, you know, Burn Hydra, I mean, I tried Burn Hydra, so in the leveling phase, right, even when I was getting like level 80, Burn Hydra was already doing like crazy amounts of damage actually, like even without scaling anything. And I think it can scale fairly well. I mean, it's not gonna be as good as Lightning Spear, obviously. But I wanna definitely try it with Andariels. Because if you play Lightning and Dariels, you don't really need any weapon tempers. So you can use your weapon tempers for Hydra heads, and then you can scale burn damage for Hydras. Put damage over time on all of your gear. And that will then at the same time scale the Andariels and the Hydra. And with Fist of Fate, you're gonna have a good amount of lucky hits, and then if you use like Spark, you get a lot of Lightning Spears, you get a lot of Hydra hits, you get a lot of Spark hits. So I think it could like kind of scale Andariels quite well, but I have to try it, how good it will be. Not sure how high the damage will actually top out for that. Oh, once you get Starless? It's not so huge. I mean, the best about Starless is really that it has this huge critical strike damage and attack speed roll. Like the damage multiplicator. I mean, sure, it helps with resource, but usually you can fix resource without Starless guys. So the jump is not huge, but you will definitely feel it. I don't know. I mean, Rogue obviously can scale the poison damage of Andariels way better than Sorcs. But still, Sorcs can scale it decently. Especially now we have a lot of items which give non-physical damage. Like by default, right? Which scale with Andariels. Like Tarasha Ring scales well with Andariels. I don't even know what boots you would play with that, honestly. I just feel there's, like, it would be nice to have a damage over time temper. Like a generic damage over time temper. I don't know if... Does another class have a generic damage over time temper? I don't even know. But that would be awesome, because we only have fire damage over time temper. That's not gonna work with Andariels, right? I think Chain Lightning is not that good with Andariels, actually. I think... I think it's better with Spark. Spark Unstable Currents. Because... it just has way more lucky hit than Chain Lightning. But the Chain Lightning I also want to try. I guess it depends on how the pens work with the resource, how many... So I really wanted to try Chain Lightning with an absurd amount of resource generation and max resource, and see how many Chain Lightnings at the same time you can actually sustain. Because you would need to sustain a significant amount Chain Lightnings to make them worth, basically, you know, investing in all that resource and any kind of lucky hit, because you would have to scale, dot damage for Andariels. Because it really, the lucky hit doesn't matter on Andariels if you don't scale the damage. I mean, it does a little bit of damage, but it's not that strong. I mean, Chain Lightning Lucky Hit Chance is decent, but I mean, Hydra Lucky Hit Chance is significantly better. But I mean, it could work. It could work. I haven't tried this yet, so I don't want any of these. Conversion of elements. That would actually be cool. Like Pass of Exile style. Transform all your poison damage into fire damage. Transform your poison damage over time into fire damage over time. They're not gonna do that. That's way too complicated for like D4. It's like way too much of a casual game to get like this complicated in-depth mechanics. I feel like they avoid doing complex mechanics just for the reason that this game has to appeal for like a very, very large audience, which Pass of Exile really doesn't. So that's why all the mechanics in this game are so simple and the tooltips are also so bad. I feel like the tooltips in this game are written so idiots can understand them. But basically, yeah, all the abilities are like so straightforward, right? So there's really nothing really complicated, like... I don't know, like Pass of Exile, the skill system, like, alone is... I think the skill system of Pass of Exile has more complexity than any, like, all mechanics in Diablo 4 combined. I mean, I don't mind tooltips being written in a simple way. They should just be correct. And they should be, what I was gonna say. So they should be always the same, right? Right now, you have different tooltips saying the same thing, and they are not consistent. Like, for example, the term cast. For some skills, it means self-cast. For other skills, it doesn't mean self-cast. And same with multipliers, right? Yeah, accurate, exactly. That was the word I was using. I guess I said it already. So that would be good. And no, consistent. So if there's one thing, it should always have the same tooltip. It shouldn't have different tooltips. Like for example, if you look at Sword, right? We have 3 different tooltips with scaling vulnerable damage, and they all have a different wording. And that's stupid. They should... I don't know how tooltips are generated in this game, but usually like the other games, like Pass of Exile, for example, right? I can tell you that for a fact. You know how a tooltip is generated? Well, it's generated by a computer. So they do the item, they put the mechanics in the game, and the tooltip is being auto-generated based on the mechanic behind it. So the tooltip cannot be wrong, technically. In D4, it seems like somebody's just writing the tooltips by hand. And that's why they are randomly just wrong. So it doesn't make any sense. Like, if you program a game, and you have a game mechanic which says, you know, this game mechanic is 30% vulnerable damage, then you should just automatically generate the tooltip out of it. And then you can never make a mistake, right? You completely eliminate all error by just making a programmatic tooltip. Like, why would you handwrite tooltips anyway? Like, I don't understand why you would handwrite anything in modern computing. Like, just have it generated. I have one of those Oculus too, and I really wanna try it. Oh, I switched to mid-game at level 100. I really, so I started this build I started this build at level 80. And I played the early game variant until I was really level 100, and I also, but I guess I didn't switch for the fact that I was too lazy. Like, I could have switched to like a better variant way earlier. But, you know, I had level 1 glyphs and I had level 15 glyphs then, you know, and then I was playing like for almost a day with level 15 glyphs because I was just too lazy to upgrade. But I would probably still wait until you are like level 100 with level 15 glyphs for the upgrade. And you want to have the destruction glyph level 21. The other glyphs you can leave at level 15. It doesn't really make a huge difference. It's maybe like 5% damage or 10% damage upgrading the other glyphs. But you want to upgrade the destruction glyph to level 21. The others are fine at level 15. And then I would probably switch to the next tier there. So my lucky hit teleport is 187%. What about that? I wonder how high you can actually scale teleport damage. I'm not hype about the lucky hit of teleport, honestly. Because yes, you're gonna be at 100% lucky hit with teleport, right? But also teleporting is slow, right? So you're never gonna get like a high speed teleporting if you're playing Oculus, because you cannot use teleport enchant and evade. And anyway, this teleport enchant and evade story has been nerfed significantly. So yeah, it will proc every time, correct. So teleporting with a high lucky hit chance will proc certain stuff 100% of the time. So I guess if you teleport with an Andariels into like a group of mobs with a Raiment of the Infinite, I don't know if it will proc 10 Novas or if it will just proc 1. I actually haven't tested that because I don't have the Andariels yet. But it might be fun at least. But it still doesn't help you against bosses, right? But on mobs, it could be funny. No, that's not true. So, Fist of Fate at 200% is 100% damage, right? So, 1 to 200% basically evens out to 100. So, 265 is actually a 30% damage increase, technically, right? And 300% will be a 50% damage increase. So, it really, you really can just, you know, like you can take the number minus 200 and then divide it by 2, and that's the extra damage you're gonna get out of it. It's an average damage number, correct? You can crit the... What can you crit? A crit chance roll? If you have a 295 greater affix on lucky hit, well, depends how good your attack speed is, because really, if you have like 1 or 2% attack speed and 3% crit, it's just gonna be terrible. So you really need a good one for this, right? This one I have is pretty decent. Obviously, it would be better if it would be closer to 300%, but these Fists of Fate get crazy expensive at the higher levels, right? So this one is decent, but you know, I mean, you can try it. Definitely, your one is definitely good enough, right? So obviously, if you're gonna miss like a little bit of attack speed here or there, but that's not like, you know, it's not the end of the world, right? So I mean, yours are probably better than mine. Yeah, I mean, again, this build is probably is weaker than playing regular gloves. I mean, I can play this build because, you know, it just launches so much more frozen orbs and I get more lightning spears out of it. So I can just clear content a little bit faster. But regular gloves with crit damage is going to be a lot more damage. Because the crit damage just scales with the lightning spear, which does most damage in this build. So, this is actually just really for... I wouldn't call it a fun build, but I mean, it plays cool this way. Like, you get so much more frozen orbs, and it just plays like a little bit more fluent. But I don't think it's... Technically, I don't think it's much stronger than the other variant with just regular pair of gloves. Like, these guys. Like, look at this weapon. He just insta-gipped me with that. This is the only thing I die here. Like, sometimes I just don't pay attention to these guys and they kill me. Like that fireball, that was the one which would kill you. No, for bosses also not better, honestly. I would say, unless you have like a very high-end gear, I would just play regular gloves. It's better. So yeah, so this is really for non-boss scenarios. It's definitely better. For bosses, I mean, I played this in Pit Boss, so you get the fastest stagger, right? Usually you only have 3 stagger phases. With this, basically you have 5. So you have 5 stagger phases directly after each other, because the Fist of Phase just stagger like so fast with all the lucky hit. But this build doesn't have the highest boss damage, really not. But for tormented bosses and stuff like that, it's absolutely no problem. I'm just talking about, you know, pit pushing above tier 120. This build falls off. But the other bosses, like Uber Lilith, tormented bosses, that's a joke. And also like the bosses in Infernal Hordes, they're easy as long as you know, kind of concentrate to kill them at the same time, or at least not too far out of each other, because if you have the stupid teleport one left at the very end, it's a big pain in the ass to get rid of that guy, honestly. Right. The +3 frozen orb on gloves is not very important at all. You can... It's probably even better if you get crit damage, honestly. But the frozen orbs ones are gonna be much cheaper. Yeah, I mean, I killed Lilith so fast, it didn't even spawn the orbs. But I still don't understand what the mechanic behind the orbs or not. Like, sometimes they spawn, sometimes they're not. It has something to do when you kill it, but I never really figured out what exactly triggers the orbs not spawning or the orbs spawning. I haven't seen any Barb this season, but I think Play Barb is still pretty good. I mean, I bought like boosts on this character when I was like, I was doing my taxes, and you know, usually if I'm like working on the computer, like if I make a video or something like that, or like cut it or do something else, I usually like buy boosts on Diablo the trade. So I just pay like people 100 million per run, so they just boost me through here. And I had a lot of rogues actually boosting me, so rogues definitely cleared this content very fast. I would say not as fast as Sorgs, but pretty much the same speed. Or let's say a little bit slower maybe, but still very, very fast. I haven't seen any barbs there yet. Oh, Butcher. I hate the Butcher, it costs like a whole wave. Yeah, I think this Lightning Slide build of Druid is kind of cool, right? I mean, the rogues were faster in with the boss than the Sorgs. I mean, the rogues I saw were killing the bosses in like, I don't know, 4 seconds. It was crazy. But I think it's a bugged interaction with their item. I think it has kind of a infinite damage scaling or something like that. There's something going on with rogues. I didn't follow up on the reason with the rogues there. Yeah, rapid fire and... I mean, Heartseeker didn't look too bad as well. I mean, I really didn't... I only saw the people who boosted me, though. But they looked okay. Yeah, exactly. So I shared like 50-50. Why do I do this? I don't know. So basically what I did is I tried both, right? I tried both Tempers with Lightning Spear. Then I tried both Tempers with Frozen Orb. And both were alright. The 2 Lightning Spears was the worst. And then I tried basically 50-50, meet in the middle. And that was the good spot for me. Because the more Lightning Spears you have, obviously... so Frozen Orb reduced Lightning Spear cooldown, right? And more Lightning Spears cast more Frozen Orb. So I kind of opted for the one in the middle. Because it just, you know, I did like 8 runs and I tested them against each other. And the 50-50 just worked the best for me, for some reason. Well, not for, I mean for gold. Like, I sold some for gold. I mean, so let's put it like this, right? I mean, in this build, like, I don't want to get stressed right now, but I could, in every of these runs, right? I could take one person for 250 million. And I wouldn't really need significantly longer. So if I make 10 runs and I just boost a random guy, right, I just get an extra 2.5 billion gold. So if you put it like this, it's viable if you want to do the content anyway. If you don't want to do the content and you would just boost for the money, that wouldn't make any sense. I would just call it like it's a side effect, which makes you a good amount of money. And you know, if you have the gold anyway and you know, you're just sitting at the computer and you have a second window open, you know, it's really easy to just get boosted and, you know, get extra masterworking materials and just pay the gold. So it's just an efficient way of getting extra masterworking materials if you have the gold. And 100 million gold at this stage for me is not really a lot, right? You also get the Stygian stones you can sell back, so it's almost for nothing, I would say. So, I mean, for me, that's a good thing, because, you know, I sit at the computer a lot, just working on other stuff. And then I just get boosted in the meantime, which it works very good. I usually get boosted tier 7 Hordes, though, right? The tier 7 Hordes cost 100 million gold, and you find, like, two Stygian stones average, so you get, like, half of it back, I would say. And then you get, like, I don't even know how much Knees Iron. Like, it's worth it in the end. If you because you don't have to basically play, right? You have to... They revive you every 2 rounds. You just pick up the Aether, and you're good. And there I saw actually a lot of rogues boosting. No, tier 7 you get 100 mil per person, right? So it depends on how strong your build is. Like I could for example boost 3 people in tier 7, no problem, right? So you would get an extra 300 million per run if you boost 3 people. Of course you need to find them and you need to get a full group, so you're not always gonna have 3 people in, so you might have just 1 person in, but it's still better than 0, right? So if you want to farm the content anyway and you're strong enough, if you go on Diablo.trade and sell the boost service, it's super easy, right? You just post the boost service at the price and you instantly get a message. Because there's people like me basically also buying these services. Like a lot of people don't want to level their alts, right? So like, for example, if I level a new character, I'm not going to play the Nightmare Dungeons, I'm just going to get boosted because you're just going to pay like 10 million gold per Nightmare Dungeon or 20 or something like that. So you can just be like semi-AFK, you know, just click the sigil once every 2.5 minutes when the guy is done. And it's just so much more efficient to use your time like that when you have the gold, right? I mean, I would never buy like the boost with real money or something like that. I just use the gold I make in-game. And I feel like that's totally legitimate if you don't have so much time investment. Obviously, if you're like a full-time streamer playing 24 hours a day, right, you wouldn't get boosted because you would just play by yourself. But for me, it's a great way to, you know, make some resources in between. But yeah, tier 7 boosting is still a pretty big thing. Yeah, I mean, tier 8 boost, there's a lot of tier 8 boosts. But if you want to boost 3 players in a tier 8, you gotta be freaking strong, right? Like, you really need top-end gear. And even on Zork, if you boost 3 people, you're gonna be slower than, you know, playing by yourself. But if you do a tier 7 boosting 3 people, you're gonna be exactly the same speed than, you know, boosting nobody. because tier 7 is like piece of cake at this stage of the game, right? Yeah, I mean, tier 8 with 3 others is like... So I did boost tier 8 with 1 other person. And it was already getting chewy. But, you know, I don't have the Mekuna build, right? If you have the Mekuna build, and you could probably easily boost 2 other person in tier 8. At 3 persons, it probably would get hard. But tier 7 is absolutely no problem. Yeah, the link is in the description of this stream at the very top. It says Lucky Hit Planner or something like that. That's kind of, you know, that's kind of advanced strategies, right? This whole boosting story and stuff like that. It is really... I don't know. I mean, it's nothing the average gamer would do, right? But for me, it's a great way of... Like, for example, tomorrow I'm gonna start a new character because I want to keep this one here, and I don't want to make a... I want to make a new character to try the other builds, because I really want to go back to farming materials with this character when I need it. And I really don't have the nerve to, like, keep respecking a character that's just so annoying. I don't want to do it. So I'm gonna level a new character, and I'm just gonna get that boosted through all the nightmare dungeons. So the glyphs are maxed. And it's gonna level very fast, right? So I don't know how long it would take to level that one, but probably crazy fast. And you get 1 extra spark as well. So if I finish the whole Hellfight story with, you know, you can wear Uber Uniques at level 35, I believe. Is it level 35 still? So if you make a new tune and you just slap like 3 Uber Uniques on it on like level 35, you're gonna be like level 100 in no time. What's up? How is it going, bro? So, yeah. So, I mean, if you get efficient leveling gear, like, for example, if you get, like, at movement speed gear and stuff like that in the very beginning, like, it's really... It probably takes, like, 3 hours to level a character to 100 or so. It will be very fast. And on the way, you pick up the Helltide materials anyway, so... I'm just gonna level another sword, yes, so I can make more builds. Oh yes, that's very good. Flame guy is gonna be dead. Or not. Where is he? Flame guy is so goddamn annoying. Ah! I don't even know what that was. Yeah, usually that works. But sometimes I just randomly still die. Like, I guess this shock guy is also, like... I don't understand these bosses, like, fully. Some of them do, like, random damage spikes. Also, like, because, you know, you get a fresh barrier, like, 3 times a second. And if you get, like, a very, very unlucky double damage spike within, like, the barrier refresh, they can one-shot you, basically. And now I have the same shit. I have the flame guy left at the very end. But but he's gonna get a stagger. That's good at least. I don't know, sometimes these bosses just don't work out, and sometimes they work out, like, very good. So this is definitely going to be better if you have the stronger damage build there. Now he has, like, weird hydras which shoot, like... What is it? I have to be careful. This guy can kill me. Oh, I'm out of everything because this guy just keeps running away. It's like... I don't know why you would design like a boss like that. Just to annoy people. You're welcome. Yeah, I don't know, the animations of the spells in D4 are just way too overtuned, I feel like. I mean, they look great, right? But they are also very distracting because they look great. I mean, you can always switch to like low graphics mode, and it gets actually much better if you go low graphics mode. Yeah, I mean, I hear that a lot. I mean, I can tell you that it's less gear sensitive because I literally, you know, built this. I played this build at, you know, I started playing this build at level 80. And then once I was level 100, I made the first build guide for it, which I was literally still using the same gear which I had once I was level 80. I was like 4 out of 12, or I believe 8 out of 12 masterworked and stuff like that, with really level 15 glyphs. So, I know the build works early because I used it early, right? So that is... I guess that's important to know. Because if that was the first build I'm playing, right? The next build I'm going to be playing, I have to specifically make sure it works early. Because it's going to be a different story. I'm going to make a build, but I already have all the gear and everything available. Yeah, tier 7 they start dropping. How much do we have? 14k? That's not a whole lot, actually. I'm gonna burn through that so fast. But yeah, these iron chunks, right? This is the biggest bottleneck in this goddamn game. Like, masterworking one here is 25, so I have 3.7k. That's not even 120 masterworking attempts, and that's literally nothing. Right, this is the last run for today. Better be a good one. And then tomorrow we're gonna build a new build, most likely. Maybe I even, maybe I still play Frozen Orb tomorrow, but I'm already gonna start build the second character. Not sure. Maybe I can do it parallel. Not sure. This one cannot use Stardust Sky because this one is not spending resource. So in this you play Stormswell. This guy you have to spend resource, and we only use conjuration skills, which do not cost resource. Pretty stupid that you can't use Starless guys without spending resource, but that's how the item works. Right. But overall, like, this sword build has been the most fun since... I feel like sword has been the most fun in season 1, actually. I mean, season 2 was... I mean, Ball Lightning was cool, but honestly, it wasn't so fun. I feel like the build was, like, dirt boring. And season 1 with the Barber, that was actually the most fun for me with Sorg. And this is the most fun build since then, I feel like, for Sorg. Like, Barber was just so cool because everything did AoE. Like, I really enjoyed that build. It's not usable, I mean, it's not usable for this build. It's only usable if you want to self-cast Frozen Orb. The cooldown reduction for Lightning Spear is gonna be not very good. You can still use it. But, definitely you have to self-cast your Frozen Orbs. You don't really need Tarasha. You're gonna miss a little bit of cooldown reduction though. So if you don't have Tarasha, I mean, you can put the Lightning Spear cooldown reduction tempo on it, right? So it's gonna work just fine without Tarasha, honestly. You don't need it. If you have just 2 legendary rings, you can just put, for example, like a Shredding Blades aspect on it or something like that, and just get crit attack speed. And temper Lightning Spear cooldown reduction. It's gonna be... not gonna be a huge difference. Probably if I had 3 greater affix on everything, 2 legendary rings would even be better for this. Because you win 1 crit damage temper. And basically, the all cooldown is not so important. I mean, yeah, it makes your teleport and, you know, Flame Shield more fluent. But the Lightning Spear cooldown you can just temper on a regular ring, so... How can I get Hellborn hunting me again? I never had this 2 times in a row. That's weird. Do I get 2 now? I mean, if you have low damage on your Tal Rasha ring, honestly, it's still gonna be better than a non-Tal Rasha ring in the end. Is it gonna be better than a 2 greater FX normal ring? Probably not. But if you compare like whatever, like a 12% Tal Rasha, right, it's still gonna be 36%, so it's still gonna be better than an FX. So even a min roll Tal Rasha has the same value than an FX. But probably like a decent ring with crit damage temper will outclass like a low roll Tal Rasha. But if you have a greater FX cooldown reduction in the Tal Rasha, that's still not bad, I would say. But I mean, usually for Tarasha, the only thing which is important is normally the legendary epics. But if the cooldown is very low, like if it's a min roll, I would probably not use it. Like I would probably just go for a legendary ring with the temper for lightning spear cooldown reduction, and give it a bunch of crit damage. It's probably going to be better. Yeah, but 12% cooldown reduction with 14.4 roll, that's going to be better than a legendary ring. I mean, that's pretty good actually. Like if you have greater FX cooldown, that's decent. I would use that one. I don't really know it, honestly. I haven't really spent a lot of time with this Storm Swirl bug. I haven't really found any information on it. So if you look at my Tarasha, right, I have a 17.5% with a greater FX cooldown. So I mean, mine, I would do 12. What do you say? 14.4. So I would basically do 9.3% more damage than you with my Tarasha ring. So do those 9.3% damage matter all that much? Well, if you're overkilling everything, you know, it doesn't really matter in the end. Yeah, man, you can always get the first... I mean, I would always get the first one. Like, unless you have... Like, it depends how much material you have. Like, the first upgrade is usually relatively cheap, right? Especially for, like, a unique, it's just a 25% chance. So, usually, you can always get the first one. Min-maxing to the second one, it's expensive. So, if I'm early game, I usually just hit my first one if it's important. So for a Tarasha, I would just hit the cooldown and then upgrade it to 12 out of 12 regardless what I hit. That's usually my strategy there before I really start min-maxing. So for 2 masterworking crits, I usually don't start until I'm already in the very late game and can farm a shit ton of resources. Because, you know, with bad RNG, you might need like 2,000 to 3,000 Ness Iron. You just get a 2 masterworking crits, and that definitely happens. Wait, what? Did I just... Well, again, that is for the early version of the guide where you have ice blades on your bar. So you always want to cast them. Oh god. The butcher messing up my perfect run here. The butcher should drop so much stupid ever. It literally drops nothing that's like so stupid. I feel like he should drop 50 or something like that. That would be fair. Then you wouldn't be, oh my god, the butcher is gonna take so much time and I'm gonna get nothing in return. No, in this build you don't need the you cannot really afford getting another elemental damage stack. You really need your weapon tempers for other stuff. And it's not gonna be that impactful. Like, it's really just, you know, a couple of percentage points there. You really don't want to do this in this build. The problem with the butcher is you need to concentrate, because if he hooks you, he kills you. At least sometimes, it depends how bad of a mood he has. I mean, he can kill you. If he can hook you, and then he can triple stun you and kill you, so you still have to be careful with that guy. This is the lucky hit build. I mean, it's not much stronger. It just plays a little bit more fluent, like the lucky hit version. That's what I say. It's definitely nothing you have to approach. Like the version in the guide plays just fine. Like you don't really need this lucky hit version because it's gonna be expensive. You need like expensive Fist of Fate. Elites are unstoppable. Is that actually gonna be bad? Yeah, that is gonna be bad. Yeah, if you got Fist of Fate with greater FX on Lucky Hit, you still gotta need decent stats. If it does have dogshit attack speed and dogshit crit and, you know, a bad, like, roll. Like, the Lucky Hit FX isn't all. So you really need, like, a relatively good Fist of Fate for this build. Otherwise, you're just gonna be weaker than, you know, just playing the gloves with the crit damage. It's gonna be far superior. I always upgrade the compasses from tier 1. I don't know if that's true though. No clue. But I always upgrade the tier 1 compasses. Because they're cheaper. They have an infinite number of scrolls. But I didn't verify if it actually feels easier or not. I mean, I ran the Entristal ones too. Yeah, that's like getting a good Fist of Fate. I mean, you can buy them from a trading website, but they are expensive. Like mine were like 6 billion gold or something like that, and mine are not very good. I mean, mine are pretty good, but not even remotely maxed out. But again, like at that point, you're just building overkill damage, so you don't need the perfect one. But it's good, like, at least to have a greater FX attack speed and a greater FX lucky hit helps. I'm using the same enchantments still. Frozen Orb and Firebolt. Oh, I always get the goddamn flame guy. Every single run. Didn't they say there's like 8 of these? I really don't like this boss fight. But yeah, you always want to focus the flame guy. Don't get zealous and kill the other ones. Not a good idea. Flame guy always first. He's gonna live he's gonna live the longest time anyway, and this one really does crazy damage in the end game. Like these Hydras, they really do like bunch of damage. If they hit you in the wrong time, you're just gonna die. No. Firebolt enchantment does the most damage by far. You never basically, no matter what sword build you play, you never remove burning synergy. You literally just give away like 50% of your damage for free. Because the enchantment slot really doesn't really do a whole lot. Sword enchantments are completely broken. Most enchantments are garbage. You pretty much use the same enchantments in all the builds. Because there's just no good enchantments whatsoever. So it's absolutely not a big deal to use a Firebolt enchantment. So you always basically want to use that. Unless you go for like very high tier pit pushing, you could probably use something else. But even then it wouldn't make so much sense yet. Like yeah, you get 3 more conjurations, but that's gonna be minimal damage, right? If you have, in a boss fight you have like 40 to 50 conjurations out, and just having like 3 more ice blades there, it's really in the end that's gonna come down to like 2 or 3% damage. So it's really not, probably even less than the Firebolt enchantment does by itself. Yeah, invigorating buff is crazy. It really gives like a huge damage boost and also a huge boost to cooldown reduction. What? Yeah, my best one was 1285. But yeah, invigorating is a very strong buff. Like you should always pick it up unless, you know, if you can pick it up, it's great. But if you have like +1 hellbones or something like that, you still want to get the +1 hellbones. But if you have nothing good, you would always pick up invigorating. I can do pit 130, maybe 132 or something like that in this, but I'm not really going for pit pushing. Can you play with Doombringer? I mean, you can play with Doombringer, but it's gonna cost you half of your damage. I don't know if it's worth the extra little bit of survivability. I mean, I don't really need the extra survivability from Doombringer. Yeah, but don't look on the dummy footage. So the 60 conjurations, that was on training dummies. So 5 training dummies with overflowing energy is not the reality. On a boss, you get like 40 to 45 maybe. This really high numbers you just get at the training dummies. Like with this build, I can probably get like 60 at the training dummies or something like that without any problems. But it doesn't really count like that. Because with the dummies, you just have, like this is, like having basically 5 elites you're hitting is not the reality, right? That doesn't happen for an extended period of time. So if you just, you know, go crazy on these now, right, and you just let this ramp up, you basically have infinite lightning spear, right? You see the number stacking like 45, 52, right? Probably gonna go a little bit higher. Okay, I don't have the second lightning spear, so I would have to switch that. So if I put the other focus, it's this one. No, this is frozen. I have to put the other dagger. So now I have double lightning spear, right? So now see, we go up to like 56, 55. Can go higher. I'm not playing the Ice Blades enchant, so... But this is not a real... It's not a real play situation, right? This doesn't work on a boss or anything. This really just works on training dummies. So on a boss, you can get like 35 to 40, probably somewhere around that. Like if you put this to like a single, right? Single boss training dummy, for example. And you get get this going, it's probably gonna end up like somewhere around 40-ish. Even a little bit higher, like 43, right? Even goes up to 50 with this. But yeah, not a real situation. But it's still pretty cool to watch, I feel like. Yeah, I'm just holding the button. But anyway, so the Doombringer question is, you're gonna lose half of your damage for a little bit of survivability, so I would probably not do it. But, you know, if you want to do it, you can use it. You're just gonna do less damage if that's fine with you. Next build is, I don't even know, it's probably gonna be Chain Lightning. I want to try Chain Lightning, but I didn't decide on that yet. But there's gonna be a next build. So anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.